for the greatest show in fantasy football history, hosted by the incomparable Scott Connor and the one and only Ray GQ. I present to you Destination Chill, where football and fantasy collide.
G-E-G motherfucking B. What's going down? Good evening, good evening, good evening, good people. Back in the damn building. I don't even know what day it is. What is it? Sunday, April 28th. Destination Chill. Post NFL Draft. 2024 NFL Draft is in the books. And Scott, man, before we say anything about these rookies, anything about this class, we're going to say thank you to over 26,000 people who watched us live streaming this weekend, man. When you talk about incredible, humble, appreciative, love, hard work, grind, all of that stuff, man. Feeling good, man. Like, real talk. Thank you to the community. Scott, I don't know what it meant to you. We talked about it going in. I said, dawg, this is going to be the most people that has ever watched us at one single time. And I don't know if you thought I was bullshitting, but after this weekend, man, how are you feeling about this community, about this space, what we do, the direction we're going, just your thoughts and thanks, because you didn't get a chance to close us out yesterday on day 3. Everybody got to go around the screen and talk about what it meant to them. What it mean to you to see that many people tap in and watch us? And, you know, that was amongst a lot of other heavy hitters who have a lot more clout than we do, a lot more subscribers than we do. You know, how do you feel to know that people value what we do and what we say over here and how we do what we do?
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything you said, echo everything that you said yesterday. It was a nice sign-off. You guys went for over 7 hours yesterday, which is just true degenerate stuff to go for over 17 hours across the weekend. So very impressive. You were there pretty much the entire time, other than the couple times where you just left the screen randomly for 10, 15 minutes and then would come back. But I think there's a couple things. First of all, the community is amazing. I mean, people that have been rocking with us forever. Trades in 5 people, Destination Devy people, people that are in Wake Up, people that were in my Patreon and Shane's Patreon, that were supporters of even Dynasty Pandemic before they even knew anything about Destination Devy. I mean, everybody coming together and having this be the spot. And then it really hit me right Thursday, to be honest, when we started to kind of get a little bit of buzz on X. This is the stream that's, you know, leading the charge. Now, we didn't ask for that. We didn't ask to be promoted by anybody. Just organically, people went out and were like, yeah, these guys are going strong. Over 1,000 people on YouTube leading the charge against other sites that have more subscribers, more followers, could quite frankly put on a bigger event than us.
Absolutely.
They go live. They can go remote. They can fly everybody to a remote
they
location.
They can get the people to them. All of that shit.
And it just shows that you don't need that per se to put on a fun, entertaining, informative, and unique type of product. And we did that this weekend, but you couldn't do it without the community. The people that are in here constantly ribbing us, challenging us, giving us shit for our takes. Like that, on the surface, you're like, man, do you really want people saying they don't agree with you? But like, yeah, I want people telling me I'm wrong, because it makes me sit there, especially when we had 8 or 9 people on the stream. Like, there's not a lot of words that everybody can get in. So you're doing a lot of thinking, reflecting, reading, and going like, I can take a lot away from this weekend. So I just want to thank everybody in the community again. How can we top it? I'm sure we will think of ways. But I just definitely think it was a reminder of what you've said for a year. After last year's draft stream, where I had some unfortunate personal things that came up, I couldn't make it more than the first night. And you had said, just be ready for this year. So appreciate you for putting it together, being available. I mean, literally blocking out the entire damn weekend, including this show, which is probably going to go 2+ hours. Maybe we'll be a little more efficient than that. But yeah, just super thankful. Looking forward to the growth of DD, what DD becomes going forward the rest of this year. So I'm excited. A closure of sorts for, and you'll hear a tribute to everything on Destination Dynasty tomorrow. A closure for the draft season. We're finally ready to move into the next phase of the offseason, right? Team building. rookie drafting, underdog. Like we've escaped I don't know what the hell to do with the rookies. I don't know what the hell to do with the rookie class. We've escaped that. We're moving to the next phase. This is like phase 2 of the offseason, so I'm ready.
Yeah, and again, thank you to everybody out there. It's the people, man. People were texting me. The reason why y'all are dope is because you do it your way. You challenge, and you like and you're okay with being challenged, and you make me think. And that's what we want to do. We want to entertain, make you think. So thank you to the community and the 2 winners of the fan experience. I'll be sending 2 individuals who joined us throughout the stream to an NFL game in their home city this season. We will announce that tomorrow morning on the Wake Up Show, me and Jay Rich, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and premiering immediately following this show. Scott, you said it's closure to 2024, right? So we got to look ahead. Immediately after this show, premiering right here on the channel, my early look at the 2025 NFL draft class. All I'm going to say for any analyst, any fantasy person out there saying the 25 class sucks, ask them to see their 2024 NFL draft board prior to the start of the season. You know who wasn't in anybody's first-round mock? Very few mocks had Malik Neighbors as a first-round pick. None of them had Bo Nix in the first. Not one single mock had Jaden Daniels nor J.J. McCarthy. Rome Odunze was often not mocked in the first round. No Ricky Pearsall, no Xavier Legette. Damn sure wasn't no Lad McConkey going top 40. So anybody saying the class sucks today, like, shut the fuck up. Like, straight up. Like, there's no other way to say it. There's no other way to say it. So class is looking good. Running back position is strong. But, Scott, we are going to go through every single pick that was made from an offensive fantasy football perspective. Wide receiver, tight end, running back, quarterback. We're going to talk about every single player that was selected. We may not spend a lot of time on each player, but we'll talk about them, and we're going through the whole damn thing. Scott, you ready to do this, man?
It's a dream to go through everybody. I've spent the last day since last night going through my Dynasty rosters. Right? It's just as much fun to realize who was negatively impacted by the draft. And when I say negatively impacted, meaning I was able to go through and cut some players going, man, I was holding this guy, but now those Salvin Ahmed and Chris Brooks shares in Miami, you know, they can probably go now that they're the running back 5 and 6 on the depth chart. But yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right, Scott, let's start out we'll start with the quarterback position, and we'll just talk about the round 1 quarterback. So I'll pull up the whole board over here, and yeah, we all know Caleb Williams went number 1 to the Chicago Bears. But the way that we're going to frame this, Scott, is we had 6 first-round quarterbacks. Caleb went 1 to Chicago. Jaden Daniels went 2 to Washington. Drake Maye 3 to New England. Michael Penix, in unexpected fashion, went number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. Minnesota trades up for J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix goes 12th overall, as all the mocks were saying, to the Denver Broncos. How are you feeling about these picks, the selections, the trade up, the surprise of Penix? I'll say this. Do we really need to talk a lot about Caleb Williams and his fit in Chicago?
Nope. It's just the only thing with Caleb is where do you tier him amongst the veterans, but that's not a debate for this show, so let's actually move on.
Anything you want to say about Jaden Daniels?
I mean, not necessarily. I think he's a little polarizing. There's some negatives about his profile, but dude, he went number 2 overall. He's going to have a leash that's uncanny compared to a lot of his other peers too. So, I mean, if he gets hurt, if he's the next RG3 and he tears an ACL, I mean, there's nothing you could do about that. So who cares? Move on.
Yes, no, honestly, that's not even in anywhere of my space of the analysis. He's good, locked and loaded. Nope. You want Jaden Daniels. Drake Maye and J.J. McCarthy, really quickly. Drake Maye went 3 overall to New England, as expected for the most part. J.J. McCarthy was not selected inside the top 5. Minnesota did feel they needed to trade up, so they moved up a spot. And, apparently Denver and Sean Payton were playing mind games, I guess. But neither here nor there. He lands in Minnesota, as commonly mocked, with Kevin O'Connell. How are you feeling about these 2 quarterbacks in particular? I know you and I are both participating in multiple rookie mocks right now. They're kind of, I don't know, man. What are your thoughts with these 2 quarterbacks and these 2 landing spots?
Yeah, there's clearly a tier break from what I've seen in early drafts. I think I started like 6 drafts today. Daniels goes as QB2. Neighbors and Marv typically go ahead of Maye and McCarthy, but it's essentially the same bet. You have Maye with the capital, but landed in a spot where we personally don't like the coordinator. We know nothing about how the team is going to be run. They drafted they have a bunch of guys at receiver. They have literally 6 best ball receivers I'm interested in, but I could also tell you a world where none of them are in the top 40.
Right.
So Drake Maye is the opposite of JJ McCarthy. They have 2 receivers on the roster that I would even want, right? Plus a top 5 tight end, plus the landing spot of McCarthy or of Kevin O'Connell. So they go back to back, 5 and 6, 6 and 5. I've had 2 people DM me today. Man, I'm at 105. Who do I take, Maye or McCarthy? Here's my reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Same tier. Yep. Pick one. If you're going to be pissed, you have a Patriots QB and his weapons suck, don't take him. If you're going to be pissed, you have the QB that if he doesn't end up being good, he's not going to get a reprieve because everyone's seeing the Minnesota situation is McCarthy better smash. If he's starting to look like Zach Wilson early on, you're going to go, uh-oh, because that was the landing spot everybody wanted. So pick your poison. I don't really have an opinion. I'll want to have some of both, but I have no conviction between the two personally.
I thought about this a lot last night, and here's the only thing that I'll say why fantasy-wise, I feel like I lean Drake Maye. Yet, I don't really want to do that when I'm on the clock because I feel a lot safer with McCarthy. But when I think about what is required in order to score all them damn points in Kevin O'Connell's offense, you got it. Kirk Cousins was throwing the ball, dog. Like, it wasn't no dink and dunk. He was letting that shit rip 35-plus times a game at times. And I still don't see him as that type of thrower, that volume throw. I just don't. So if I don't see him as a high-volume passer, can he run? Yes. Will he? I don't know. I just feel like Drake Maye is probably going to have to do a little more Superman. And he's either going to sink or swim, but I feel like there's a little more room for fantasy upside with Drake Maye, but I feel a lot safer with J.J. McCarthy with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Kevin O'Connell. So I skipped Michael Penix intentionally because Michael Penix and Bo Nix were 2 quarterbacks that, Scott, I will speak for you. Leading up to the draft, you didn't believe that either would probably be first-round picks. Maybe as we got closer, the Knicks thing felt real, but you nor I nor anybody, the final weeks of the draft thought Michael Penix would be a first-rounder. Anybody. That was in no mock. Anywhere. Inexplicably, or whatever you want to call it, it happens. He goes at 8. Bo Nix is at 12. We've already started our rookie drafts. We are in 2 that the buy-in was a damn $1,000 to get in the league. Bo Nix, Michael Penix, how are we feeling about them, and what are you seeing people do with these 2 quarterbacks early in rookie drafts?
Well, this is a testament to the first-round stuff. Okay. I can buy the first-round stuff that maybe I wasn't on, a lot of people weren't on, but it happened. Sometimes it happens with a position like quarterback. Now, what I didn't expect, this is why the draft is unpredictable. My analysis on Nix and Penix never changed. It was always they are going to get drafted in a range where they're going to be in a position to start. Maybe not right away, but they're going to get an opportunity. Now, I thought that was going to be in the second, late first, where a team goes, hey, we'll give you, it's a Will Levis shot, right? We'll give you a year. If you don't flame out, we might give you another year, but it's not the same as we used a top 10 pick on him. So the analysis on, all right, I changed, and I'll plug our draft guide that's coming out. I changed both of their classifications to multiple year starters.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I say multi-year starters, Ray, Mac Jones started for 3 years.
Correct. Kenny
Zach
Pickett.
Wilson.
Kenny
Zach
Pickett
Wilson
was a multi-year starter.
Correct. So that when I say that doesn't mean good, but
Right.
when you're taking in the top 12, you are going to get multiple years unless it is just an outlier, a Josh Rosen level outlier, which is possible. But we've been saying that for 5 years. We've had one Josh Rosen that gets nixed right away, no pun intended, after one season. But I think here's the thing where you can really learn from the draft. If you would have told me a team trades up is the same team that drafted Michael Penix, had signed Kirk Cousins. Like, everything about that situation was unpredictable.
Yes.
Everything, meaning
yes.
You could have sold me that the Giants traded back for him or the Raiders traded up for him or something like that. But a team that we had just crossed off going, Ray, I had the Vikings as a team not even going to add, or the Falcons as a team not even to add a quarterback.
Why would they?
They restructured Heineke to come back. I go, man, they're set with Cousins and Heineke. And then they're the ones that trade up for Penix. So I'll just say this. They're multiple-year starters. I do think you have to draft them in the top 12, top 13, top 14 if they fall, maybe top 10 depending on the quarterback market in your league. But I think here's the key, is understanding what your league is going to do with these players, understanding
Correct.
the ADV and the sentiment on both players.
Correct.
Bo Nix is going to start day one. He's going to start day one. He's probably going to start for 2 years. Hell, he may start 20-plus games before Michael Penix starts one game. How is your league going to treat Bo Nix, the asset, versus Michael Penix, the asset? I will say this. If you already know your league is going to value Michael Penix over Bo Nix after Bo Nix's first 2 games where he struggles, then don't draft Bo Nix over Michael Penix.
Yep.
Right? Because you know that the window for Penix will exist. It's just, do you have the discipline? Do you have the team build, et cetera, to wait it out whenever it happens? So I prefer Penix. They both should go in the first round. You just did it on the team that you totally punted and rebooted. You snagged Penix a pick ahead of me. And I think we both have the similar type of build right now where you're going, you could give a shit what he does this year, right? That is an asset you are holding until next year.
Yep.
When some of these shitty teams start to fade away, they need to reboot, and they'll be interested in Penix. So
Correct.
I do think someone brought it up in voice chat. If you can't get a 25 first for your 110, 111, 112, and you don't want to make the pick, isn't Michael Penix kind of like picking it to a future first?
Absolutely.
There you go. That's how I'm playing it. I want some Penix, and I'm willing to wait on certain teams.
Love it. Those were the first-round quarterbacks. I don't really have anything to add. It still does not feel good drafting Bo Nix. I'll just say that. I have been able to hopscotch around him. I've been able to do a couple of different things, trade out of a pick, get some proven NFL talent. I just think that you're going to have an asset that is very much on that Will Levis spectrum, to where, people will take him at a reasonable price, but he's never going to be a desirable asset. And if things go south for him early, you're just going to be stuck holding him. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I agree with you. He's probably going to start for quite some time, but he is the one out of, Scott, I'd say out of the first 7 quarterbacks taken, he's probably the one that people dislike the most. I think people have more hype and hidden hope for Spencer Rattler overtaking Derek Carr, which won't happen, but have that hope, than they do with Bo Nix in Denver. I just think it's a situation that a lot of people don't like. Know what you're getting. It's just tough. It is tough. It is tough press and draft on Nix. But let's pivot and talk about the first round wide receivers. Scott, the first 3 of the first 10 picks in the draft were receivers. And I was like, here we go, baby. It's going down. Receivers crazy. And then it was like nothing until pick 23. And then we got a flurry towards the back of the first round. But as expected, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors went where they had been mocked the entire time. Neighbors to the Giants, Harrison to the Arizona Cardinals. Do we need to talk about either of those 2 players? I guess the only thing I'll ask about Neighbors is, are you worried about the quarterback situation, but do we need to spend any significant time on these?
The answer to your second question is no, we do not need to spend a ton of time. First question, I'm not worried. Listen, if the quarterback situation sucks this year, guess what teams typically do, right? They fix it to get somebody better. So to give up on Neighbors because of the landing spot, I think is definitely overthinking it. I think Harrison and Caleb are in a tier. I keep telling people, man, they go, what do I do if I'm at 102 and my quarterbacks are Bryce Young and Justin Fields? Okay, well, then you may want to try to trade up to get Caleb Williams. But if you don't need a quarterback, 102, 101, same tier. Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, same tier. The only reason you're moving in and out of those picks is probably based on team need. If I'm in one of those spots and I'm kind of indifferent, I have no problem just taking whatever falls to me. I'll just say with Odunze, I know you didn't say that we need to talk much about him, but I do want to add this. I think he is a richer version of last year's JSN. He's a lot like Penix, but even higher pedigree, meaning he will get a complete pass for this year, barring he doesn't go out there when they have 2 injuries ahead of him and he's not good. Other than that, I think it'll just be let's wait it out. I saw a comment in the chat. I'll just trade for Penix next year. I'll just trade for Malik or Rome Odunze next year. Listen, man, the guys that draft Michael Penix at 110 and Rome Odunze at 18 and they don't light the world on fire in year 1 are not selling them next year for much less. And it's just, I don't think that is going to be, there's going to be some leagues, sure. But I don't think you go into it going, I'm passing on Neighbors or Odunze at 108, Penix at 110 because, well, I'll just buy him next year. Normally that's not how it works. Somebody in your league invested and they're not going to give them up. So I think Odunze doesn't really change much other than you wish the landing spot might have been a tiny bit better.
So I'm looking at Underdog's ADP, and I had been it never felt good. Marvin Harrison's current ADP, 15th. That means he's coming off the board at the 203 in a redraft league. It scared the hell out of me to be like, man, I'm taking a rookie that high in seasonal leagues. But now that it's happened, and I look at Arizona, I mean, Scott, he's going to get fed, 150 out the gate? Like, I'm fine with it. I'm just willing to bet on the production. I know you typically don't see rookies produce like that, but I'm willing to make the bet at this point. Like, now that it's happened, I'm like, fuck it. Maybe he does return that type of value. But I'm with you. No need to really talk about Harrison or Neighbors. But I do think we need to discuss Rome Odunze a little bit. He has been a hot topic item across the social media airwaves. He lands in a spot with a rookie quarterback. Normally that is great to hear until he lands in a spot that also has DJ Moore, an all-pro caliber receiver, and Keenan Allen, even though he's older, an all-pro caliber receiver coming off of both of them 1,200-plus yard seasons last year. This is a new offense. This is a rookie quarterback. This is 2 new weapons, and this is a highly drafted wide receiver. What are your thoughts on Rome Odunze? Where are you at with him, the asset dynasty long-term, and where are you at with him, the asset in redraft? And Rome Odunze was going off the board quite early as well. That one I definitely was a little more weary of, but he was coming off the board 4th, 5th round at ADP of 45 in Underdog. So talk about Rome Odunze a little bit in this spot in this situation.
Yeah, but I do think he's going to be a difficult click in Underdog, but we'll see where the Bears receivers ADPs shake out, because I do think they end up, when we get close to the end, I think they end up much closer together than they were pre-draft, meaning I don't think it's just going to be Odunze gets buried. I think there are going to be some people that say
they're close right now. They're close right now.
I mean, like real close, within a round and a half, all 3 of them. Where is Keenan Allen right now?
3 spots ahead of Odunze. It's Keenan Allen, Lamar, Higgins, Odunze.
Interesting. You think Rome will fall like a round or 2?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But then do you think he'll move back up as people start to kind of hear more about
I don't know, man. He was up too damn high to begin with. DJ Moore will fall a little bit. He's at 23. He's at the back of the second. So he'll come down. Allen's already right there. I think Odunze is going to be the one that drops.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe Rome Odunze can be an elite weapon, then he's justified where he's going. I have no qualms taking him 107 in rookie drafts. If you want to take him over McCarthy or Maye because you're just terrified of getting the next bust quarterback, I'm not going to argue with you. But if you think he's an elite receiver, I have no problem waiting a year. I mean, it's funny. We're going to talk about a couple guys here in a minute, next tier. We complain about Malik Neighbors, right, because he has a bad quarterback situation, right? We complain about the next guy we're going to talk about, probably Brian Thomas. Like he has a good quarterback, but he has like other good receivers on his team. So like we're never happy with we want the elite quarterbacks to draft the receivers. And what do elite quarterbacks usually have on their teams? Usually a good receiver, right?
Good receiver, yeah.
So it's just funny. We kind of like, we shit on guys for going to a spot where they don't have a good quarterback. but then we shit on spots that are good because they have too many receivers. So I just think the expectations are off. You've said it all off season. Everybody just nitpicks these landing spots because some of these guys are not walking into, that's a wide receiver 2 off the rip.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, wait a second. There cannot be 48 wide receiver 2s. And we were getting close to that in Dynasty where it's like there's 40-plus receivers valued as, well, that's a wide receiver 2. And the reality is not all of them can be there. So I want some Odunze, man.
It's a bubble.
I want some Odunze.
It's a bubble. It's a bubble. It's a bubble. It's the question. Here's the thing, man. And this is why I'm going to push people to answer the question. It's not that the question isn't, do you want Odunze? The question is, what are your expectations? And I want to hear what your reality or your perception of how this is going to play out for him. It's easy. We all want some Odunze. How does this play out? How do you, when you're drafting him, what are you drafting him for? What do you believe the outcome is going to be?
If you told me he would have
No, Scott. What do you think?
I am answering. I'm answering, but I usually start with a rhetorical question. If you said he would give me DK Metcalf's career, would people be happy with it? I'll answer yes. Yet other people will look and go, well, he's already valued ahead of DK Metcalf. He's almost higher than DK Metcalf has been for 2 years. That would be a bust. But that is us overvaluing a receiver that people go, man, this guy's a top 10 receiver in Dynasty before he even gets drafted to a team. And I just told you he may have a career of a guy that has put up multiple top 15 seasons and has been a damn near wide receiver 2 or better every year of his career. And I bet you I put that poll on Twitter, Ray. Probably 30% of people would tell me that's a bust career if Rome Odunze's DK Metcalf.
I bet
and
you
I think that's a fair type of comp. If he becomes Devontae Adams, then like, all right, you smashed. But if he's just DK Metcalf or Brandon Ayuk or someone like that, like you had a good pick. That was a good pick at the 108 where you got him. That's my expectation. He's a wide receiver 2 where there might be some ADV at some point where I can sell him for more. That's it.
I think I would be very happy if he turned out to be DK Metcalf. What if I told you he's just Michael Pittman? What if I told you he's Michael Pittman?
I think they're similar. I think you just have a different style, but I do think like the range of outcomes is very similar. And I would tell you more people I think wouldn't like that.
Absolutely.
But the point is, if you pulled that and there's people saying that is a bad pick, that is a bust, or that is a disappointment, then I bet you their expectations are too high for every single rookie in this class going forward.
Yeah. I'll just say this. My expectation is not for him to come in and outproduce Keenan Allen nor DJ Moore. That's just not, and that has nothing to do with how I feel about the prospect, how I feel about the player, how I feel about him long-term. But I do not expect him to walk onto that team and out-target and outproduce Keenan Allen nor DJ Moore barring injury. I just don't. And here's the thing. I'm still good with press and draft on him in Dynasty. Not so much in redraft when the books have already come out and said we're going to set his line at 625 yards. But Dynasty, I feel rock solid about him. He's an incredible prospect. I love where he lands. He's tethered to Caleb Williams. But my expectations this year is there are going to probably be multiple rookies who outproduce him, but I'm not worried about it. And that's just my opinion. If you think I'm crazy and he's going to be the best receiver in Chicago this year, by all means, have that belief, but that isn't my level of expectation for Odunze this year. We had some other first-round wide receivers, Scott. Brian Thomas Jr., 23 overall to the Jags. Xavier Worthy, 28 to Kansas City. Ricky Pearsall, 31 to San Francisco. And Xavier Legette, 32 to Carolina. Talk about those 4 wide receivers right there.
Yeah, we had a long debate on Brian Thomas the other day, and I think you kind of made a really good point about the data for this year, what the expectations are for this year. I look at all of these guys in the same tier, at least Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy, and not Legette or Pearsall, but another one we haven't mentioned yet, Lad McConkey. But I look at Thomas as he is another, I think, riskier profile, but he's also somebody that's tied to a good quarterback, does something in the offense that probably nobody else does. And you sit there, and I've heard people say his competition is a lot. But then I've heard people also say they don't have any really great receivers on the team. So which is it? Again, did you expect him? Everyone mocked him outside of the top 15 picks, right? Nobody was saying he was going to go in the top 10, top 11. Everyone kind of had him in this range, and that's exactly where he got picked. He went to a team that was picking 17th, who traded back to 23 to get him. So what did you expect, right? Did you expect to be able to say he's getting 120 targets as a rookie? Or are you just kind of expecting him to be out there because of the way they play?
Mm-hmm.
He probably has some skills that Christian Kirk or Gabe Davis don't have.
Correct.
He's probably got a complete package that those two cannot individually replicate.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just on him to earn playing time. He's got to go out. First thing is to go out and beat out all those other peripheral options on the team. Don't even make it a contest that it's preseason and Parker Washington's getting snaps over him. Like, that's the first goal. Once he's on the field, if he's going to live up to his capital, he doesn't need to be the guy. He just needs to be involved, and people will give him a pass next year. They'll look at end-of-year numbers. Man, Christian Kirk had 127 targets. Gabe Davis had 94 targets. Evan Ingram had 133 targets. You're going, how the hell was Brian Thomas supposed to smash? But, hey, he had 77 targets, and he was pretty good. And he came on the end of the year. He was just as involved as the other guys the second half of the year. He'll get a pass. Next year, it'll be Brian Thomas.
I don't even think it's a pass. I don't think it's a pass. I think that would be an encouraging sign from a rookie receiver.
Momentum. He'll hold his. Yes. People will still want him going into year two, which is the goal. That's why I drafted him.
And that's my expectation. My expectation for Brian Thomas is not to lead Jacksonville in receiving this year. Like I am not expecting him to go out there and take over the role from Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, and Evan Ingram. I'm not. But what I am expecting is him to put enough on wax this year to where I feel real good about that going into next year. Like, I feel even better that now, year two, we can expect that Brian Thomas breakout. That's what I want to see. I want to see him put up. Give me something similar to what Tank Dell did, right, prior to him going down. Give me something to be excited about, and that's an asset like Brian Thomas and Best Ball would love to have. I know he's going to be inconsistent, non-producer early, but I'll take those spike weeks at a later cost than what we were paying earlier. Xavier Worthy finally lands in Kansas City. This has been the mock that's been existence since the first mock. We've just been hoping somebody fast would go to Kansas City. Rashee Rice with his legal issues probably going to get suspended for a little bit. X-Worthy lands in Kansas City. I have said that if you need the production this year, I have no problem with drafting Xavier Worthy ahead of Rome Odunze. I do believe that he should be in position to outproduce him early. And I think we've got Kansas City PTSD from Sky Moore, a little bit from, who else did they have? Clyde Edwards-Helaire. People are very weary of this situation. But you go back and you look at how often and how much Justin Watson and Marquez Valdez-Scantling were on the field for Kansas City last year and the opportunity that those two were given. The fact that Kansas City trades up to get this guy, it's a position of need. They don't have anybody that can do what he does. I think he is in line to have a very, very productive rookie season, and I want some Xavier Worthy. Xavier Legette, same boat for me. I am very much interested in Xavier Legette, the way that Dave Canales, I put a tweet out there about how he deploys his receivers, or at least how he did in Tampa Bay. And if he can earn that third role, he's going to be on the field a whole bunch. Trey Palmer was on the field just as damn much as Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but he also wasn't a first-round pick on an offense that was devoid of talent. So I'm in on Xavier Legette quite a bit. Ricky Pearsall is one for me that I still kind of just don't know how to feel about him. The capital is good, but right now, for now, Ayuk and Debo are still there, and even if one of them leaves, it just feels like it's Christian McCaffrey, man. It's going to be CMC. Brock Purdy spreads the ball around. I don't know. Love the capital, love the landing spot. How do you feel about any of those three really quick?
So Xavier Worthy, I see very similar to Brian Thomas. I prefer him to Thomas, but I do think you're kind of taking him for the same reason. You're hoping for just upward momentum the entire time you have him, meaning they're on the field right away. And if they're on the field right away, they're tied to offenses and quarterbacks where people will want those guys heading into year 2. Like, those are assets that are not only could give you some production, but also can give you a good investment. So I'm good there. Legette, it's hard for me on Legette, Ray. I've passed him over a couple times. Maybe there's some bias there. I'm going to have to get some exposure, but I think maybe I have a blind spot on Legette. Even though if you told me the receivers he has around him, and should I be scared of any of those, and if you didn't tell me which former 101 quarterback he was tied to, I would go, dude, that sounds like a situation I want. But it's just hard to buy into. So maybe that's a blind spot. I'm looking forward to kind of hearing.
Is it hard to buy into him, or is it difficult for you to buy into Carolina?
I think it's everything combined. It's where he started as a prospect, what he lacks as a prospect, what the Panthers lacked last year. But there's no denying that they basically traded up and took him over a bunch of other guys that we would have gone are going to go over him. And like you said, the competition and the way they deploy the receivers, like, he's going to be there as long as he earns a spot on the field. So I don't think it's low-hanging fruit to say he's going to get opportunity. So it's hard to ignore that. And then Pearsall, man, I got a blind spot on Pearsall, and that sucks because I really liked him. I was hoping he went to one of those teams in the second, but he gets up into the first, and now you're going, I'll just say this, the math doesn't math. You have a top 10 tight end, a top 5 running back, and 2 receivers that have had multiple top 24 finishes. So even if somebody leaves, even if both or 3 of those guys are gone in 2 years, doesn't it feel like Ricky Pearsall doesn't have the clout to say he's a 2026 play? Doesn't that feel like one you're willing to kind of just pass over and worry about it in 2 years if that comes back up? That's how it is for me.
I don't. And here's my only pushback with he's not, if there's something as the prospect profile. If you're going to take that route, then you could go to Lad McConkey, Ricky Pearsall, like all of these guys. All of them have major warts in their prospect profile. I mean, all of them do.
But that leads to, I think, the sentiment and the ADV.
I know.
McConkey is the same thing. McConkey's the same thing, but he's tied to a quarterback that people will go, I can overlook it. That's my fear with Legette, is he's not tied to a situation that people will overlook it.
So here's my thing. My thing is this, and I talked about this on the stream. Like, I have started to dive deeper into just like the football side of what went on. And when you just look at the things that the Panthers did, none of it made sense, man. How on earth, of all the teams in the NFL, the only team to just run one formation more times than the Panthers were the Rams? There was zero creativity to the offense. There weren't any weapons. Like, when I say a shit show of epic proportion, it rivals Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. Like, to get fired as a one-year head coach midway through, and the new head coach come in and pretty much listen. He's picked in the first round. He's big. He's fast, and the receivers that they have there are absolute shit. So if he's on the field, then I want to make sure that I don't miss out on a player that's in an offense where there's just as much opportunity as anywhere else in the NFL. There was one more first-round pass catcher. Brock Bowers went 13th overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. Didn't see that in mocks much at all either, Scott. I don't know how many. I don't think I saw him to the Raiders once, to be honest with you. But I'll tell you this. I like it. I like it a lot. And I don't give a shit who the quarterback is. And honestly, new quarterback comes in, even better that Brock Bowers is already there. I think he's locked and loaded. This is, I've got nothing to say. I am good with him in Las Vegas. Sucks for Michael Mayer, but I am very much fine with Brock Bowers in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I do think the only thing is, and we talked about this on the stream, so we can skip over and move on to some of the other receivers or running backs, but it is fair to question his ceiling at this point, meaning he was tight end 2 coming into the draft, and I think you could probably argue 3 or 4 other tight ends maybe passed him after the landing spot. And I don't know if the community necessarily is still buying into Brock Bowers as he is the next elite tight end, because they know Michael Mayer. So I want some Brock Bowers. I do think it's fair to say it's hard to take him over You taking him over Kyle Pitts, Ray?
Well, let me just ask you, and I know it's not you, but man, like, I have really sat back and just watched my timeline talk, and there are some fucking idiots in fantasy football that talk football. I'm sorry to use that type of language tonight, but I mean, just some of the things that are. Let me just ask you, where was his ceiling elite at? Where was Brock Bowers' ceiling elite at? In Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson, that was an elite ceiling spot. In New York with Aaron Rodgers, that was an elite ceiling spot. Where was the spot where he was realistically projected to go that now that he didn't land there, he doesn't have an elite ceiling? Because I think his ceiling is just as high and just as fine, running the seams, playing that move wide tight end in between Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams with field stretch and Trey Tucker as the third receiver. How is this not a good spot for him when you've got a quarterback, even in Aiden O'Connell during his rookie year, they let him throw the shit out of the ball. Gardner Minshew can get the ball where. How is this not a great spot for Bowers?
I am just speaking to the perception of the situation. People would have loved him to go to the Chargers at 5, and they don't have anybody else. I'm just saying.
Wow.
He goes to Cincinnati at 18, and they just magically let T. Higgins go, and they never bring in another receiver ever again. And it's just Brock Bowers' season. Like, that's what people are hoping for. But I agree with you. I mean, some of the spots he could – if he was on Indianapolis today, let's say they would have gone A.D. Mitchell and Brock Bowers, and you're sitting there going, is Anthony Richardson – I listened to the projections with Dwayne McFarland, and he ran his early projections on the Colts. We'll get to A.D. Mitchell in a second. But he's like, these projections for the Colts are not good for anybody. And imagine throwing Brock Bowers in there and still going, man, that's a top 3 tight end in Dynasty. But people wanted him on the Colts, but the math doesn't match. So I agree with you. What's the ADV, though, right? People don't like the situation. Had he gone anywhere with an elite quarterback, I think he would have gotten the pass. But here, it's just a little risky. But what does that mean? Tight end 5 instead of tight end 2? Does it really matter?
Funny? Isn't it funny, man? We need Neighbors. I wish he went to an elite quarterback. Bowers, wish he went to an elite quarterback. Legette, wish he went to an elite quarterback. Like, what are we doing? I think this is a great spot for Brock Bowers. I've got no problem with him. If there are people in my league who want to let him fall, they're scared about Las Vegas, I will gladly scoop him up. So there it is. Round 1 players. Round 2. Scott, you ready to start the round 2 fantasy football selections? And I saw somebody in the chat. Say, Ray, make sure you timestamp this, baby. I'm time stamping. I am time stamping all of this. So as soon as it's done, I'll load the numbers in there, and y'all can skip around and go back and do all of that stuff. But yeah, that's your first round, Scott. I mean, real quick, wrap up. I mean, 7 receivers, 6 quarterbacks, and a tight end. Wow. And we're sitting here. We will never see this.
We will never see this again.
And we're sitting here bitching and complaining about Legette and Pearsall and Rome Odunze and Brock Bowers and Bo Nix. We're complaining. We had record offensive skill position players selected, and we're sitting here complaining about all of them. Legit, all of them. Come on, man. This was awesome.
It was, but I mean, I've said this for months before this draft. You could see this coming with the receivers. There just wasn't spots where you go, that guy's going to walk in and be the number 1 or the number 2 on a team. It just didn't exist. And there were some good landing spots. I mean, McConkey, Keon Coleman, we'll get to him in a second. Like, those guys landed in great spots. Legette, good spot. Worthy, good spot. Like, these guys actually went to the better spots relative to what they could have gone to. And people still just don't like the fact. And that's not that these guys are bad. They're just victims of there's so many damn receivers, like in the Ricky Pearsall range, that the thought of that golden child future first rounder that you traded for 2 years ago, and you saw Caleb and Marv, and it ended up being the 112, and now you're stuck with Ricky Pearsall. People are just so let down that they didn't get a locked and loaded starter that you kind of got to look outside the box and go, what is my goal with this pick? That's where these conversations of ADV and value maintenance come into, not so much the production. Why do I want Brian Thomas? Because you know what? There's a little bit of a bonus that next year people are going to want Brian Thomas. So, yeah, I wish my 111 could have gone to better use, but here it is. The reality is I need to be looking forward, and it's not just, oh, yeah, Brian Thomas is going to get 150 targets. So let's move on. We only have 6 second-round players, so this should be easy.
Yeah. Let's move to round 2. Let's pull the board up, because right at the top of the board is where we had the action, right? We saw Keon Coleman. We'll just start there with the receivers. We saw Keon Coleman go to Buffalo, Ladd McConkey go to the Los Angeles Chargers, Jalen Polk, who started to get some buzz very late in the process that he could go high. He went to the New England Patriots. And the other round 2 wide receiver was Adonai Mitchell, who fell all the way to 52 to the Indianapolis Colts. And we'll put the senator, Ben Sinott, went 53 overall to the Washington Commanders as the second tight end off of the board behind Brock Bowers. So Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk. That's the top of the second round, Scott. Talk about him.
You know what's funny? T. Higgins went at this same pick in 2020, and people were excited for it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And some people are excited about Keon Coleman. They're back in, but I've also seen people say, man, I just can't take Keon Coleman. Yep. He's not going to see the field right away. They're going to play multiple tight ends. The way they used the receivers last year under Joe Brady, he could get squeezed out. He may not produce right away. Like, he's a polarizing guy, and it hasn't really changed. Maybe you've seen something different, but I haven't seen overwhelming love for Keon Coleman in this spot. But it's just funny because it was Higgins should have never fallen to the second, and it was Keon should have never gotten drafted at pick 33. You know, it was like they should have taken somebody else. Should have taken A.D. Mitchell, or they should have taken Troy Franklin. You heard those names, like they should have taken those guys instead. So I don't know. I do think it's going to be tough for him to shed the stink, right, until it's not. So, I mean, he's a guy I'm not high on where he's going. I'm seeing him go like 202, 203 in these drafts, but it almost feels like I need to find my spots where I'm going to take a couple shares, don't you think? Like, even if he isn't ready right away, it does feel like the same logic you could apply to what we said about Brian Thomas and with Xavier Worthy applies to Keon Coleman. People didn't like him as much going into the draft, though. So it feels like he's got a little less to hang on if he doesn't smash right away. But you have to also acknowledge, like, you know, the offense that he's in, the quarterback that he's tied to, it could easily turn back around, and all of a sudden we're going, how the hell do we let that guy go to the second round? So I got to get a couple, but I'm not high on him per se. So that's my thoughts. I'm still questioning the ADV and whether it'll ever be there.
Here's how I'm approaching Keon Coleman. I like Keon Coleman. I do. I was not one of the people who was overly bearish on him. Especially, you know, after the that was never me. There was a point in time during the very beginning of the college football season, Scott, where a lot of casuals don't remember this, but it was Keon Coleman and Marvin Harrison as wide receivers 1 and 2 in the class. This was very early. It was not Malik Neighbors and it was not Rome Odunze. For a good 2-3 weeks, the conversation stemmed around Keon being one of the best, if not the best in the class, up there with Marvin Harrison. So it's just interesting to see how things shifted for him through the college football season. But here we are in Buffalo. And what happened to Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis once Joe Brady took over?
Struggled.
And wouldn't you say that at least right now, Stephon Diggs for sure is a better player than Keon Coleman, and Gabe Davis, at least he's produced in the NFL. He's been a better fantasy asset than Keon Coleman, and both of those two players struggled in that offense. I don't think Keon Coleman's going to be asked to replace Stephon Diggs. I think he's going to be asked to do certain things, be that big body possession receiver. Let's work underneath the Dalton Kincaid. Let's ride James Cook. We drafted Ray Davis, who we'll talk about later, and we got Khalil Shakir, and we went out and paid Curtis Samuel. So again, my expectation for Keon Coleman is not him going out there and commanding 120 targets. I like him, but I probably will have a lot less of him than others. So let's talk about Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, and I think with Keon, the biggest thing I'm kind of worried about is the current short-term iteration of their offense. Meaning, Maybe best case scenario, Ray, is it doesn't work and they just kind of eat this year on an offense that's probably not great for the fantasy receiving weapons. But maybe the worry is if it does work, they're looking at going back to 2025 as that's the year, but the Bills are going to kind of start turning it around. This is a year where they're kind of just punting in a way. They're fixing their cap this year, but you kind of want the Joe Brady offense not to work, and then maybe it gets changed after this year. My worry is if it's successful and they go, 10-7, and you're going, we're just going to run this back for a couple years, it turns into one that isn't super fantasy friendly. But yeah, Ladd McConkey. I've taken Ladd over Brian Thomas. I've taken Ladd over Keon Coleman. I've taken him over Xavier Legette. So I guess you would tell that's my wide receiver 5. And I think it's just I don't care about the Chargers offense. I don't care how many plays they're going to run. There's no reason he can't be somebody that is on the field day one. He's not replacing Keenan Allen, but to say he's not going to be involved, I think is hogwash. He's going to be a starter day one. He's going to be on the field. Now, what does that look like is a different story, but I think there's going to be plenty of windows.
Well, if you have that level of conviction to say you're taking him that high, then you have somewhere in your mind a projection of what he's going to do. So What do you think that is? Do you put it out there, man? The draft happened. Fucking lay it out there. You think he leads the team in receiving next year?
I think he can give me what Jaden Reed gave me last year.
Do you think he leads that receiving core in receptions and yards?
I'd give it 50-50 shot that he does. If he puts up Jaden Reed's numbers, he's going to do it.
51%, and then I'll take Josh Palmer, and we can make a little friendly bet on the show. You think he leads the team in receiving this fall, receptions and yards? Yay or nay? We can lock in just a friendly case of Topo Chico bet.
Oh, yeah. I'll go 1-1.
1-1.
Yep.
And when I win this, just like Jay Rich got to pay that Topo Chico, I want you sending that damn DoorDash case of Topo to my house, and the same to you. So there we go. Ladd McConkey to the Chargers. I like the spot too. I have no clue what this offense is going to look like. I am very much worried about what is going to happen offensively and how they're going to perform. But they spend high capital on him. I think he's a very talented player. And I do believe that he should develop into an early target earner for Justin Herbert. So I like Ladd McConkey as well. I just do not believe he's going to lead the team in receiving in year one. I'm just negative Nancy, apparently. I'm just negative. I'm negative Nancy.
No.
You know? Clearly, the only two...
Really good comment.
All I'm going to say is there's only 2 receivers that I believe will be fed as day one target earners out of every receiver in this class, and it's Neighbors and Marvin Harrison. That's it. That is it. So at that base, maybe I'm playing too much realism, but with that baseline foundation that I don't believe I think it's those 2, and that doesn't mean the other ones are not worthy to be selected or they're not good, but the only 2 that if the season ended tomorrow and you told me Marv and Neighbors didn't lead their team in damn near every receiving category outside of TDs, I would be like, wow, I'd be shocked. All these other guys, Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy, Jalen Polk, you tell me, somebody else outproduced them. Kendrick Bourne or Pop Douglas had more receptions. Josh Palmer had more yards and receptions. I wouldn't be shocked, and I also wouldn't look at them as less than. My expectation level is not where yours is in McConkey and where apparently just about everybody in fantasy football where they have the belief in these players. So I guess I'm just kind of on an island with where my expectations are.
Well, no, you're not.
And I'm okay with that. And I'm fine with that.
We're going to get into some real talk. Put up the comment from Mr. B. A couple comments up there. Talks about, am I wrong? You see that one?
Let's go.
Let's
see. Am I wrong? All right. Here we go. Let me get us. We got to get off the screen. Let's go right here. All right. Let's see what this is. Let's pull him up. Here it is. Am I wrong? Am I wrong if the Chargers got Neighbors at 5? Some people would be saying, I'm not sure they're going to throw the ball enough. But yet, Ladd is, look how many targets he'll get, the beans. I mean, people were literally doing this. Doing this. I don't know about that spot for Neighbors, but now it's great for Ladd.
Well, and that's because there's an unconscious bias of what we would expect from Malik Neighbors. If Malik Neighbors went to the Chargers, you're expecting Jamar Chase. Ladd McConkey goes to the Chargers, you're going, all right, he's going to have opportunity ahead of probably what his prospect profile said. but there's clear expectation differences between if Neighbors would have gone there. The questions would have been, Ray, I don't know if he can get to 150 targets, and it usually takes about 150 targets to be a top 5 receiver in the NFL. That's what Neighbors would have been graded on. Ladd, it's like, man, I think he's going to get enough volume to probably be a wide receiver 3, and he's with Justin Herbert, so why not? And in the chat, I said I took McConkey over Brian Thomas. Part of that is because I see both receivers as below the expectation that they become Jamar Chase or A.J. Brown. Like, I don't expect that from any of them. So I took Ladd because I do think he is more of a live asset in a best ball league, meaning if he's good, people will go, oh, hell yeah, high-volume slot receiver tied to Justin Herbert. They're going to have to throw at times. He's going to be a guy I could see having a bunch of, 7 for 70 type games, and people go, I would trade for that. So I think in a best ball league like that, using that narrative is how I would break that tie. If I'm shooting for ceiling in a lineup, start 10, start 11, I'm fine going, you know what, I'm taking Brian Thomas. He was a first rounder. If he becomes that, he does have probably a higher ceiling and a higher value ceiling. But that's how I would probably delineate the two if I'm drafting. Best ball, give me an asset that survives as a live piece all season and beyond. I think Ladd has an argument ahead of the other guys that we talked about previously, especially BTJ. But I want to point that out.
Okay. Yeah.
That's an ADV reasoning to breaking some of these ties. Knowing your league, knowing that you need pieces to move, I think there is a reason to draft one over the other, depending on your format.
All right, Jalen Polk, Adonai Mitchell. Polk, New England, a few picks after Ladd and Keon. Adonai, a lot of picks later.
Mitchell's buried for me, bro.
Okay.
Buried.
I've got little interest in him as well. They don't use the number 2 wide receiver in that offense. I got to see it. And if I do take him, I have a lot more interest in him in best ball formats where I never have to worry about plugging him into a lineup, and if and when he gets some explosive big plays or scores some long touchdowns, then I'm able to realize that. But other than that, I don't really like the spot.
They have the slot receiver that we've seen is a good player, right? Josh Downs is a good player. But we also talked about Josh Downs as like kind of the dead zone receiver that nobody really wants. Yeah, and then they add another guy with a shaky profile and a role that he's probably going to play where he's 3rd in the pecking order at best.
I'm with you. So
yeah, just not. I've passed him over, honestly. I don't know how much I'll have.
He's really like 5th in the pecking order, right? Because it's Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and then probably Anthony Richardson run ball. And then it's Anthony Richardson run ball. Then it's Jonathan Taylor run ball. And they believe they added a center that I really, really like later in that draft. I forgot who it is, but neither here nor there. Yeah, I'm not as in on Adonai Mitchell either, Scott. Not as in on Adonai Mitchell. Now, I am very much in on Jalen Polk, and I see a lot of people out here immediately, it's Javon Baker over Jalen Polk. It's Javon Baker over Jalen Polk. And that's because people liked Javon. He was one of those fantasy football darlings that got steamed up throughout the pre-draft process, who everybody in the NFL is wrong that it should have been drafted much higher than the 4th round, I'm in on Jalen Polk.
Javon Baker should have gone ahead of Jalen Polk. I've seen that a couple times, meaning that the NFL team was wrong. They should have drafted him in the opposite order, is what some people have said.
Right. That's what Tom Jones in his fucking basement is spewing out to a bunch of people. The NFL team is so wrong, bro. Come on, man. I'm in on Jalen Polk. I like where he lands. The fact that he's tied to a young quarterback, again, not a lot of talent on the offense he's got to get through. I am in on Jalen Polk, probably a little higher than most. I am very much in on Polk, and that has nothing to do with Javon Baker being bad. It's just, come on, man. Like, come on.
I think there's 5 receivers on the Patriots. You could justifiably go, I'll take some shots on him. I would take Polk first, but
yes, I'm taking Polk first, and you should take Polk first too. Don't listen to anybody out there that says don't take Polk before you take Javon Baker. Don't listen to that bullshit, man.
we will get to Javon Baker, but I'm seeing some Javon Baker's the guy you want. I've seen him go in the mid-third of some of these drafts. I'll just say he's going to Ray, he is going to have to beat out Kendrick Bourne, KJ Osborne, definitely Jalen Polk, and Pop Douglas. He's going to have to unseat two of those. And KJ Osborne's not any good, but you know what? He's somebody they can probably roll out there and get 40 catches out of. You know what I mean? Like, he's not a zero to where you go, yep, Javon Baker starts on the depth chart ahead of all of those guys. So I'm not out on him, but I think people really underestimate just how hard it is for Javon Baker to come in as a fourth-round pick and just knock numerous guys out of the way that have been in the league for multiple years and have produced. And it's just because the bias is KJ Osborne isn't any good, Kendrick Bourne wasn't any good until last year, and then he has a torn ACL. So those guys are dead to most people. Baker just runs right past them until we get out there and you go, why the hell is the coach playing KJ Osborne, Ray? Why is he out there and Javon Baker's over there with his helmet off on the side?
Oh, yeah. Have we not learned our lesson by NFL teams just play NFL players all season? Why the hell is Tyler Algier still out here? He's there from week 1 to week 18. I mean, it's just – I like Javon Baker. I like Baker. I think I have Baker as a –
The community is going to be too high on, though, in rookie drafts where they're taking him. It's going to be tough to get him.
If you take him over Polk, you're an idiot. Like, literally, just off of ADP, you should not have to do that. Like, you could take Javon Baker at cost. Don't do that. Not
over Polk, but I'm seeing him go. I've seen him go over Marshawn Lloyd, over Jalen Wright, over Ray Davis, like over some of the running backs where you're like are going to have immediate opportunity, and I can't do that.
Yeah, I'm not doing that either. Not doing that either. I'm very much in on Polk. One pass catcher left. Ben Sinott. Quick thoughts?
Well, our old boy Debro has him now at tight end 10 in Dynasty, right off the rip. So I don't know about that, but that's a big voice. Debro's voice reaches louder than ours do a lot of times. And
yeah, I'll text him. He told me he was tired the other day, so I'm going to just equate that to lack of sleep. He texted me that. He texted me that the other day, so I'm going to equate that to lack of sleep. But no,
I've taken him in a couple leagues for that reason. If people are going to say he is, and he got a little hype as, what was it, Dane Brugler and Nate Tice were saying this guy looks like maybe the next Sam Laporta. And now you have people going, he's a top 12 tight end in Dynasty. I want to have a little bit.
Well, I don't who are the 9 above him, or who's right below him? Who's right below him? That's the better question.
I mean, he's definitely ahead of like Dallas Goedert, Dalton Schultz, right there with Jake Ferguson, ahead of Pat Freiermuth, like just clearly ahead of most of those guys. And that's where I'm like, that is a lot for a rookie tight end with a rookie quarterback and Zach Ertz in front of you. Would you be shocked if Zach Ertz is a fan favorite of Jaden Daniels?
Hey, where's that? Keep talking. I got to find these beans. Let me find these hopium beans that people are just, I need to sell these shits, man. I mean.
In the chat, where's old Ben Sinott on Keep Trade Cut?
Where's he at on KTC, man?
Move up. I'm curious. I'm looking it up right now. I want to see where he's actually there.
Okay.
I'm seeing where he's moved up to.
All right. We're going to start to prep up for the third round of the NFL draft. Any final takeaways here, Scott? Actually, I'm just going to the third round. We've said enough. We've talked about Lad McConkey at nauseum. We're going to the third round.
No, we didn't. Ray, we didn't talk about Jonathon Brooks.
Oh, excuse me. Jonathon Brooks. Yes, the one running back. Jonathon Brooks. Yeah. You are correct. I'm sorry. Yes, Brooks. Let's do it. Hey, he's RB1. Let me make it quick. We don't have to talk a lot about this, man. He's RB1.
Yeah.
Then there's a tier break. And then you could rank every other running back however you like because I just don't really care. I don't really care. I like.
That's a preview of our third and fourth round running back conversation.
I don't really care. It's Jonathon Brooks is RB1, and sure there are. That doesn't mean I'm not going to draft him. Scott, you're in draft. I just took Benson, Corum, Lloyd, and Wright, so I will draft them all. But I don't give a shit how you rank them. Prioritize them however you want because everybody's gonna have a different story. Jonathon Brooks in Carolina is a good spot. I like it for Bryce Young. I like it for him. I like it for the offense. I like it by how Dave Canales uses running back Rachaad White in Tampa Bay. I like the additions up front that Carolina invested in the offseason as well as in the draft, the additions of wide receivers. Somebody from the Carolina Panthers beat reporter circles actually commented on one of my posts and said, can you imagine them in 12 personnel with Xavier Legette and Jonathan Mingo, who are apparently very good blockers, being out there as lead blockers for Jonathon Brooks in I formation or single back with Bryce Young. Like, I'm just like, oh shit. Now that's the football that I like, man. You got Legette and Mingo out there blocking for Jonathon Brooks. Good spot for Jonathon Brooks. Should be RB1. Where's he finish at the end of the season? I'm hoping that he gives me some RB2 production. If he finishes as a mid RB2, then that's I'm good with that.
Yeah, you don't have many running backs anymore that can be true bell cows. Like, we know that doesn't exist. I have them tiered as starting running back potential / committee back, and then you can basically slap that tag on every running back in the class. Even Jonathon Brooks. He just has a little bit of a higher starting point than those guys do. But yeah. And Tommy Tremble, right? Throw Tommy Tremble out there with Legette and Jonathan Mingo. You have a receiving core that can black, 100%. 8 lead blockers for Jonathon Brooks in those formations.
Love it. Which leads us, now we can go into round 3, and we will start with the aforementioned running back. Since we already talked about Jonathon Brooks in round 3, Scott, who did we have come off the board?
We had Trey Benson, Blake Corum, and Marshawn Lloyd going to Arizona, the Rams, and the Packers, respectively. And I'll keep these quick. They're all the same to me. They're all guys that I would take in the second round, and there's a few others. I want shares of all of them, but I'm not going to project any of them to just be better than a running back on their roster at any point during their career. And I said that at any point during their career, meaning there may be a world where you go, James Conner retires after this year, or Josh Jacobs gets hurt and then they cut him, or Kyron Williams fades away, and all of these guys are just horses in 2025. But I'm not betting on it. I'm betting all 3 of these guys were drafted to be part of a platoon, part of a committee. And even if that happens, Ray, James Conner goes away next year. You know what I would bet? The team goes, man, we need another Trey Benson to put next to Trey Benson and see what happens. It's like, that's how you value them. Is one going to emerge and be worth a first-round pick in 2 years? It's possible. But the idea that I know which one it is, I know Blake Corum's better than Kyron Williams. We saw it on the stream. Trey Benson over James Conner already, off the rip. Like, that's just not how I'm going to play running back.
Andy Holloway, shout out to the fantasy football. Yeah, hit me up. I posted something, and he was like, and James Conner fits that mold too. I tweeted out, give me all the Gus Edwards and James Connors and Devin Singletaries I can get my hands on, like legitimately at cost. I'm with you. Listen, I like Trey Benson. Blake Corum was my number 1 rated running back coming into the draft. Both Marshawn Lloyd and Trey Benson were top 5 running backs in the class for me. I prefer James Conner. I prefer Kyron Williams. And I damn sure prefer Josh Jacobs over all 3, over any of those rookies. Now, if Blake Corum gets an opportunity to play, I think he will do very well in Sean McVay's offense. If Trey Benson had to spell James Conner, I think he's more than capable of being an average to above average NFL rusher. I think Marshawn Lloyd can do similar things or be at least more explosive, but A.J. Dillon is still, I'm not going to claw and fight and hold. I've learned my lesson, man. So if Blake Corum does get an opportunity to get in there and play and he looks good, and my team is in position to capitalize and utilize and realize the war and the points, I will continue to realize it. If my roster is not constructed in a way in which I need those points, I'm not holding Blake Corum week 7 through week 18 for him to be my future stud running back in 2026. I will trade him to a team that actually is ready and able to utilize and capitalize on the points that either of those 3 running backs will give me.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the theory behind it. This is why I struggle with having a bunch of these guys, because they're all going to go in the mid-second, like you just took them, right? They're all going to go in a row in that range. Maybe Marshawn Lloyd falls to the end of the second. But if you sit there and you're on the clock at the 2:06, Ray, and you're thinking about, do I draft Blake Corum? But someone's offering you a 25 and a 26 second for that pick on the clock. Like, for me, it's just too easy to go, even a second and a third. It's too easy for me to go, you know what? I'm willing to kind of live dangerously and play the running back more of a week-to-week, month-to-month type of thing. Meaning I just struggle to make that bet going, yep, I know Blake Corum is the 204. I just know it. Because if I'm drafting him at the 204, I'm not only buying, I think he's guaranteed to give me sporadic production, but there's going to be something more than that. And it's just not a good bet with running backs with these profiles in this capital.
And let me just address this. What's up, Drew? Drew Sorensen Music is in. Drew was with us all weekend, longtime supporter of what we do. He said, I think we talk too much about players in relation to landing spot, not about their ability. Let me just say this. Do you not think that the players, the teams in which they land are not able-bodied individuals as well? That's the reason why they're the starting fucking running back for the Arizona Cardinals. There's a reason why Josh Jacobs just got paid. There's a reason why Kyron Williams was able to outlast free agent, because they have ability too. Like, it's not just like the rookies coming in are the ones with all the talent and the ability. They still have to unseat ability that already exists, and in most cases, ability that's already proven in the NFL. You better have a handle on the landing spot in the situation. Let's talk about the receivers. And Tip Ryman, who nobody has drafted despite his top 100 capital. Malachi Corley, Jermaine Burton, Roman Wilson, Jalen McMillan, Luke McCaffrey. In my opinion, the most interesting pocket of picks to deal with right here. In my opinion, of all the spots in the draft, this pocket of third-round wide receivers, the by far most difficult for me to rank, to think about. I'm going to need you to lead me through this one. And let's start off talking about, if you had to ask me which one I'm most bullish on from this group, it would be Malachi Corley, and probably for a lot different reasons than people initially think. It's not just because of the higher spot in the round, but it's truly because he just does something different than Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson in an offense in which I've seen Aaron Rodgers utilize a wide receiver with this type of skill set. Like, I am more in on Corley with this landing spot now than I was even pre-draft, but I know you love Jermaine Burton, and I loved Roman Wilson, the prospect, and I feel like I'm on an island by not loving this landing spot in Pittsburgh. Haven't really thought a lot about Jalen McMillan. I think he still slots in as the wide receiver 4 in Tampa Bay at best early on. And Luke McCaffrey, I tried to talk myself into drafting him earlier today and still haven't been able to do it. So talk to me about this pocket of wide receivers and Tip Ryman. You better start out with Tip Ryman and why nobody is drafting him still. Damn shame. Damn shame.
I'm not dry. Cody Smith in the chat. He's got the Tip Ryman scouting report that he can go over. Listen to Overreaction Pod on Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
He said he's going to do something different for the show, so maybe they'll have a 5-minute Tip Ryman ADP discussion on that one. But
okay,
I love this spot, especially. I mean, for me, Ray, this is my favorite spot, and I didn't even know where the spot was going to be. I'm a little upset that you were in the best ball league we're drafting right now. I looked up today and I go, damn, Ray's got all those picks in the range where these guys are going to go. But doesn't this feel like, especially in best ball, if you could go Burton, Wilson, Corley, or whatever order you want, and you can rip those at the 209, 10, and 11, doesn't that feel better than Ladd McConkey, Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette with 3 first-round picks?
Yes.
That's the difference. Is we know draft capital is against these guys historically being outside of the top 50, outside of the first 2 rounds. But I can make arguments for any of the 3. Josh, who was on the stream with you guys a bunch yesterday, made some real good arguments on Roman Wilson. I didn't see it. You and I on the stream didn't love it, but he made some good points about, if it's really just the Arthur Smith, is he going to use the second receiver? But if so, why can't Roman Wilson be a guy that's similar to like Deontay Johnson? Where
I know.
And because George Pickens, we like George Pickens, but he is not a target hog. He is not a command the ball 10 times a game type receiver. He's good, but there's room for that in the offense. In Burton, I think people will buy into Burton if he has a role right away. I think people will buy into him 100% when T. Higgins leaves, so there's a ton of ADV in that pick. And then Corley. You already made the argument for Corley. So I'm going to have a ton of these guys. Best ball, I'm smashing them. But even in lineup, Ray, let's say you're about to hit draft on Ricky Pearsall, 202. Someone's willing to trade back. They will give you 225 seconds and the 302. And I can tell you're going to get one of these guys. You're giving up an early
smash.
One second. Would you do it? 1 second.
Yes. And best ball is worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm trying to be objective because I really like Roman Wilson throughout the process, right? I really liked him. And it's not that I'm fearful of the receivers around him because Pickens is going to do Pickens things. Like that, Roman Wilson can't do what George Pickens can do, but he should be able to.
Though. That's a good thing.
It's a great thing. I just watched Arthur Smith. Let me give you some numbers on Atlanta. This is fucking mind-blowing. Mind-blowing numbers. As I'm looking at the NFL deployment of the most popular and well-used and known formation, 11 personnel, which features 3 receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end. Spread them out. Let's get the ball out quickly. Looking at the numbers, I say on average, NFL teams ran this at least 60% of the time. Rams, 97%. You got some teams in the 80s like the Panthers for God knows what reason. League low. Do you want to know how often and how creative Arthur Smith rolled out 3 receivers in Atlanta? Just take a guess when the average is about 60.
Less than 20%.
Less than 20% of the time. 17%.
11%.
17%, which is just, that is scary. And he runs 12 personnel in Atlanta, 39%. But out of that 39%, the pass rate was sub 50%. What are you doing? Like, I need to see him get back to doing the type of things that he was doing in Tennessee early on and not what we saw the past couple of years in Atlanta.
How much 13 personnel?
We're not
too much. Right?
More
1% is too much.
More than others in the NFL. More than others in the NFL. Did we hit all the receivers from that range? Luke McCaffrey, Jalen McMillan. You didn't say anything about either of those guys. We're talking about every player. Luke McCaffrey, Jalen McMillan. I'm with you. Let me just say this. I want Corley, Burton, and Wilson. Like I want, if I can trade out if somebody has to have Pearsall or my McConkey or Legette, I have no problem acquiring future capital and landing one of those guys, one of those 3.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we're talking mostly best ball too if we're doing that. I mean, that's just a no-brainer because again, the threshold of what you need is lower, and you kind of lump all these guys in. Yeah, they're all going to be usable, which is what I'm shooting for. So I would prefer McMillan over McCaffrey, but I might like McCaffrey's landing spot a little bit better. I would say with a rookie quarterback, it's tougher to sell me on McCaffrey, who I'm curious as to what the usage back looking at Arizona's. What did Arizona's numbers look like in terms of 3 receivers? I assume it was high.
Yeah, 65%.
Back when Kingsbury was there.
Oh, when Kingsbury was there, probably high too. Probably high.
Yeah, I'm just. Do you think McCaffrey has a day 1 role? They don't have much else on the depth chart.
I think he will, and it will be nothing for fantasy because I don't believe that Jaden Daniels is going to go 1, 2, 3. Ben Sinott, tight end 10 is going to produce, and then Luke McCaffrey is going to get that 4th look. I don't believe that's going to happen. Will he have a role? Yep, he should be on the field in 3 receiver sets. Is he going to be utilized enough for us to want to use him in fantasy? Not outside of best ball. I'm not going to bank on that happening. And Austin Eckler is there too. Shit, no, man. What am I doing with Luke McCaffrey this year? What am I doing with that? I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, and we're a couple picks away from the guys that went after him, but the 2 receivers drafted right after Luke McCaffrey, I think, are ones there.
Somebody made the call.
ADV exists.
Somebody made the call just so he can go on day 2. There was a call made, a favor done. There was a favor to get him in on day 2. last pick, too fishy for me. There was a call made. I think that's it for round 3, Scott. Let's pivot and talk about some players that were selected at the top of day 3. Day 3 was a fun day of the NFL draft, man. We had a bunch of people join on. Thank you for everybody that hung around the entire day 3. It was a lot going on that day, 7 hours, but we got it done yesterday. But let's start off with the running back position. Scott, running back position. And we had Jalen Wright come off the board first, Miami at pick 120. Bucky Irving came off the board, again, I think much earlier than people thought, at 125. Will Shipley, kind of surprising at 127, getting paired up with Saquon Barkley. Ray Davis, your boy, got to meet him at the Senior Bowl. That was cool. Goes to Buffalo at 128. Isaac Guerendo comes off the board in the 4th round. Scott, talk about somebody that is going to skyrocket. Hell, he wasn't even in Underdog's queue for the entire tournament of the big board. Like, he was not even available. I think in FFPC we got a few of them, but Isaac Guerendo goes to San Francisco, and Braylon Allen goes to the Jets. And we will be talking about the Jets and the running back position a little later. But let's talk about these running backs here, Scott. Any of them, which ones can we just X off the board that you're just like, I'm good. I'm totally out. Braylon Allen?
Braylon Allen's a tough sell.
Not totally out, but a very difficult sell.
The only reason Braylon Allen isn't a tough sell is because his name's Braylon Allen. That's it.
Right.
Meaning it's hard to say if he fell to the 4th or late 3rd, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I don't have any, I really don't want any, but he's got a name. And I think Isaac Guerendo's the opposite. He doesn't have a name, but he had the combine. But he's also in a spot where, Ray, all it takes is one home run.
One home run play. He's the next Keaton Mitchell.
Give me anyone on that backfield that has an opportunity. So I think honestly, I can make a case for all of these guys, which is why they are where they are. And it's interesting that the NFL kind of took all these guys in a big cluster of 14 picks. And literally, I can go through individually and I can sell you on all 6. I can sell you how all 6 could end up being the next Tyrion Davis-Price or Pierre Strong. And you're going, the guy never even got a chance. Yeah. Like that is in the range of outcomes, but this is why you have thirds. If you're stuck making 3rd rounders, you want to take a couple of these guys. But, man, can we just remember last year guys like Zach Evans and Evan Hall? You know what I mean? We were talking about the same thing last year. I love that Evan Hall spot. He's the number 2. All they got is Zach Moss. You know, how did that work? You know?
Yeah.
I think I don't know what else to say. We've beaten the running back position to death in Dynasty.
Which one do you want out of this group? You got to pick one. You got to pick one on the board.
Jalen Wright as 1A, Ray Davis as 1B, because I think Jalen Wright just for the spot. Any Miami, I'm still rostering Chris Brooks and Salvin Ahmed, Ray. If you're on Miami and you're a running back, there's a market. Mm-hmm. And then Ray Davis, because he does something different than James Cook.
Is there a little Kentucky bias too? Just okay if there's a little. It's all right, man. Show some humor. No. Is there a little Kentucky bias? No. Like, oh man, I got to meet him. I got to meet his dad. He did the interview with me. I like him. There's no bias. Bullshit.
Ray, if Ray Davis went to Philly and Will Shipley went to Buffalo, I would switch him.
Talk about Shipley, man. He is one that, I loved me some Will Shipley. This is one where I'm just like, what is he going? Here's the only case that I have for Shipley. The only case that I have for him is the Philadelphia Eagles brought Saquon Barkley in, not just for him to produce in the regular season, but more importantly, to be available in the postseason. And the only way to ensure that he's available in the postseason is to not run him into the goddamn ground during the regular season, and Shipley's going to be the number 2 back. That's a lot of beans that I'm planting. I've got to have a lot of space to plant that field of magic beans. But that's the only story I can tell myself as to why I want to invest in Will Shipley right now. Other than that, if Saquon Barkley is just the Saquon Barkley of the past, what good is he in Philadelphia until Saquon gets hurt?
Kenneth Gainwell is still there. And we were talking in the same light 3 years ago about Kenneth Gainwell. Just wait.
So
he'll get a little bigger. He'll earn that role in year 2 and year 3, and then You end up and you look for his career, he averages 6 touches a game.
I know.
Which, that's fine. That's what he is. Now, you know what? If Kenneth Gainwell's getting 6 or 7 touches a game, right, you know what that is? That's annoying to Will Shipley.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That is the type of guy that he has to clearly be better than. And I want you to highlight a comment in the chat real quick.
I already know which one. Who is it? Is it Drew? Is it Drew?
This is why you do not.
Is it Drew? Is it
Braylon Allen in every league? You saw it too?
I knew it was Drew. Drew, Drew's got to get. We got to get them beans for Drew. Where's Drew at? There it is. Magic beans. Fairy. The fantasy fairy has delivered these to Drew Sorensen. Fantasy football fairy tale opium. Drew says 6'2", 245 pounds. Talking about Braylon Allen can get 1,000 yards. Breece Hall is one ACL away from. He's one Breece Hall ACL away from a lead spot. Smash. Just got to let that Breece Hall tear that ACL again for that Braylon Allen to get in there and
Drew,
go to town.
I love you, Drew. I love
Drew
you,
knows
Drew.
I love. Drew's been here. Drew's still gonna get these beans. Drew knows he's getting these beans. I love him. He's still getting them now.
No shade, but that, like, literally that comment is a microcosm of why we sit here and talk about sentiment and ADV. Because there is somebody in every league that they may not put it in the chat like Drew does, but they may be sitting back going, man, Breece Hall gets nicked up. Braylon Allen's the guy you want. Now, what does that look like when it happens? We'll see. But there is somebody thinking that same thing. So there's a reason why do that analysis. When you're getting to this point in the draft, you do have to go through each player and go.
And to be fair,
saying that Bucky Irving is one injury away from 1,000 in a lead spot, probably not.
And to be fair, Drew's saying at the 308, he is smashing him at the 308, which is. That is great. No issues at all.
You said before, if you're in the third, shouldn't you just be drafting the bean?
ADV. That's all you need to draft. So good for you, Drew. We're really just planting them beans in the 1,000-yard smash department. But that is really why you take those players, because Drew's not saying I'm smashing that Bucky Irving or that Isaac Guerrero. He said I'm smashing Braylon Allen because there is perception, right? And there was one more comment, and I just want to clarify this. Where was it at? H.J. Kim was talking in relation to Will Shipley. He said, could carve out a Tony Pollard-like role with Kellen Moore as OC. Let me tell you something. Go back and look at when Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator and Ezekiel Elliott was fresh. There was very little Tony Pollard. In that final season in 2022, Tony Pollard and Zeke had damn near an identical split, 50-50 split, and Tony Pollard was getting all the efficient touches. Prior to that, it was all Ezekiel Elliott, and Tony Pollard was just the hopium for the future. So I am not banking in that he is going to carve out a role unless he walks into Tony Pollard, Zeke Elliott 2022 when Zeke was pretty much done.
Well, and just to be fair, Dallas, first of all, threw the ball more than Philly's probably going to throw it at a higher rate. And Dallas didn't have Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley. So where is the Tony Pollard role coming for Will Shipley? It's not. He's the fifth option at very best, and that's assuming he just pushes everybody out of the way and has snaps right away.
Let's talk about the 4th round wide receivers. Really,
get those beans out.
You want to get the beans out? It's just Magic Bean City. It's Magic City, but not the one with the strippers. It is just beans. Troy Franklin, 102 to Denver. I believe did they trade up to 102 to make it even more? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they traded. They had to have him, so they traded up to 102. Made sure they got their guy, wide receiver 1 of the future here. Javon Baker, New England, got him at 110. Devontae Walker, 113. And Jacob Cowan goes to San Francisco at 135. All right, let's just get it. What are we doing? Scott, how much beans how many farms are we planting here?
Oh, and I'm just going to say this. Cody is bitching in the chat. We did not bring up Sion Vaki, but he is listed as a defensive back. So he is not on my chart.
Get out of here, Cody.
When they move him, I know they announced him as a running back, but when
he's playing safety, trust me.
I will add him to the chart. But yes, are you picking him up in lineup leagues as a running back or as a defensive back, Ray, until he makes the switch? Are you interested at all?
Cody Smith needs. We're talking about him more than we talked about Adnan Mitchell. Go to the 4th round receivers.
Oh, okay. This beanstalk's higher than anybody in the draft. Troy Franklin.
Yes.
It literally is. It is.
Yes. It is bomb drop beans. It is.
I've seen people with him as their wide receiver 5.
Oh, wow.
Meaning he just leapfrogs at least 2 guys that went in the first round, even though he went in the 4th. He's going to have some opportunity.
Absolutely.
But it's pure. For me, we talked about it with Baker earlier, so you can lump Baker into this conversation. They're both tied to a first-round quarterback. They both have wide receiver depth charts that nobody likes. And they're both going to probably get a chance to earn a lot of opportunity right away. But for me, people are already assuming that and pricing it in and going, I'm taking these guys over Jalen McMillan, over Luke McCaffrey. They're just pushing them up all the way into the range of this might as well be Jalen Polk. This might as well be Malachi Corley or A.D. Mitchell.
Right.
Javon Baker might as well be those guys. I just, it's going to be a blind spot. So I have 2 Troy Franklins that I've held from Devi, Ray. That's all I'm going to have.
That's it?
Well, I mean, what am I doing now? Holding them to see what happens. But I won't have any more in the price that he's going to go at, I should say.
Let's answer the question from a perspective of some people who aren't in this hopium island and they have him at wide receiver. They just want to know, how should you value him? Like, just how should he be valued amongst the rest of the receivers in this class, knowing that he is paired up with his collegiate quarterback? But, I mean, didn't Sean Payton trade up for Marvin Mims last year and drafted him higher than Troy Franklin? And to be fair to the pass catchers in Denver, it didn't seem like it was Payton that had this big issue with all these. The issue seemed to stem with Russell Wilson, and we all knew that relationship was going to deteriorate and sever. Is he better? Does he walk in and he's just over Marvin Mims, over Cortland Sutton, over Tim? And this has nothing to do with dynasty value over the veteran. I don't know, man.
Again, if you can stomach using a 2nd-round pick, I can sell you a narrative to where if Troy Franklin comes out and he is good right away and he is tied to Bo Nix, that you have something there. But if you've already paid a mid-2nd-round price, I mean, I'm looking at our draft right now, that we are currently at the 305, and Troy Franklin went at 209. So, like, you're paying a price where basically you're betting that he goes higher than that. And I could sell you on a world where he can be sold for more than that, but that's what I'd be looking at trying to do, is selling off the, it's funny. I have him as a low ceiling threshold receiver in the guide. Could you sell me on putting that as a high ceiling? Ray?
No.
Just based on the name, the landing spot? Not high ceiling from a production standpoint, but
no.
Could you see a window where sometime in the next month after the season starts where people are paying a first for Troy Franklin? Can you even envision it or no?
No. I can't envision that. No.
Okay.
No. No.
That's all I got. That is an ADV conversation entirely because the price is too high for me, but I'm just trying to sell myself on, what. Because we're past looking at, well, the NFL screwed up and he should have gone in the top 50, but he didn't. Yeah. So he's just that good. Like, that's not how we play the game. But I'm trying to talk myself into there's definitely some ADV going out there as to why people are ranking him so high. Just because
that's the only reason I want him. That's the only reason I want him is because other people have him, but I'm not taking him at the 209. So I won't have any. He would have to be available in those 3rd rounds before I take a Ray Davis, a Will Shipley, a Bucky Irvin. Is he available down there? And if he's not available point is, that's the only reason I want him. That's the only reason I want him. Jacob Cowing, if I'm apprehensive about Ricky Pearsall, what the hell am I going to do with Jacob Cowing? And to be honest with you, man, like the landing spot in San Francisco is good, but man, Kyle Shanahan's his past record of just draft picks, skill position players in general, they've all been shit. Tyrion Davis-Price, awful. Danny Gray, awful. Joe Williams, who else did he? I'm not interested, man. I'm just not interested. Tez Walker,
Best ball,
mildly, because
I
in
like
best
Tez Walker in best ball. Yes,
because he does something different than Zay Flowers. He's a big guy. We got to meet him in person. He's a big receiver. He's fast. He can stretch the field. Lamar, we know he's had success with field stretching wide receivers in the past. I'm in on Tez Walker in best ball for sure.
Yeah, and most of these guys, I mean, everybody we're talking about receiver-wise from the third round and below, we're talking about lineup leagues being roster cloggers. So the only analysis on any of these guys in lineup leagues is there hopium to sell. I like Tez Walker, but he doesn't have enough ADV for me to say
best ball.
If he's good, somebody will want him. Yeah, it's best ball only, but we're just kind of talking about the ones we would like. And I'm with you on Cowing. Let me skip ahead because we're almost 2 hours in, Ray. We had the little technical issues. After Jacob Cowing, so let's just go the rest of the receivers that got drafted, then we can wrap up by finishing with running backs and tight ends.
Okay.
What other?
Let me get the timestamp. 50-13. All right, what do we got now?
What other receivers outside of the top 4 rounds even interest you in best ball? Both production, landing spot, quarterback, sentiment value. My list is pretty limited. When I went through for the draft guide, and
what's your list?
The non-roster cloggers, I put down Brendan Rice, Jamari Thrash, the kick return bump. If you have kick returns in your leagues, I did also put in Anais Smith, Bub Means, Malik Washington, Ryan Flournoy, Jaquan Jackson. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Not even interested in any of the others. And a couple of those I had to really kind of look at the depth charts and figure out, all right, does this guy have a chance to be the kick returner? And how many people play in kick return leagues? I mean, it's, some, but not all. So, I mean, like if you're betting on, hopefully Anais Smith is the kick returner in Philly. And if you don't have kick return leagues or kick return points in your league, then not interested. But it's a slim list. I thought this list would be stronger, Ray. Mm-hmm. I thought there would be more receivers round 5 through 7 where I would go, you know what? I'm interested. But it's that's it. What about you?
All I have is Jamari Thrash.
Okay.
And Brendan Rice. And with Brendan Rice, I'm giving it's straight magic beans. I'm just going to talk like this the whole time. It's straight beans. Because I sat up there and talked out of one side of my mouth early. Lad McConkey, I don't think they're going to get that much targets. But somehow, damn near Mr. Irrelevant, Brendan Rice, I've talked myself into how, he is staying at home in L.A. and, Harbaugh knows him better than anybody else. But realistically, it is just the simple fact that there isn't a lot of great talent around. He does something a little bit different than Lad McConkey, and he's got a name. It's honestly straight hopium there. Jamari Thrash, I do think there's a world in which he carves out, or at least has an opportunity to carve out some type of role. But, honestly, my hesitation with Cleveland is damn Deshaun Watson. So the answer to your question is none. And I know Josh talked about his magic beans being planted in Malik Washington. I love the player, dude. I love the player. And I know Miami deploys and rotates a bunch of receivers, but the other ones just don't get the ball. They just don't. It just goes to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And Miami, surprisingly, is one of the few teams that deploys 3 wide receiver sets, the fewest in the NFL. You think that in that offense, they got a bunch of receivers out there, but they don't. They're running 2 wide receiver sets out there probably majority of the time, and that's going to be Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I don't have a lot of interest in any of these wide receivers after Tez Walker. None of them. And it gets ugly in these rookie drafts. That's why in the 3rd round, you better just load up on the backs. Get the guys that you want there, because come 4th round, I don't want many of these receivers at all, dude.
Yeah, Ray, I'm about to pull up on our Destination 5 Best Ball League where I have 10 of the final 14 picks. So I'm going to be getting used to a lot of these names.
Let's go to the tight ends really quickly.
Taking all of them.
Because we had a bunch of tight ends go, but really the ones that I want to spend time talking on are, let's just talk about all of them. Yeah, JT Sanders to Carolina, Theo Johnson to the Giants, and Darren Waller apparently retiring. JT Sanders goes to Carolina, where Cade Otton ran the most snaps in the NFL last year. Eric All, Beans in Cincinnati. A.J. Barner, no one even knows who he is, so we don't have to talk about him. Cade Stover in Houston, no thank you. I don't want any part of that. And then you got Jared Wiley, the next Travis Kelce in Kansas City. Any of these tight ends get you going at all?
I mean, JT Sanders is getting steamed up just because I think it's about as good of a landing spot as you could have had. If you look at the other tight ends, you go, okay, there's got to be a chance for him. So he's, again, it's not going in line with where he probably should go, but he's clearly the tight end 3 coming off the board. So I think, again, some ADV. He has a name, went to a good spot, high pick in the second round, first pick of the fourth round, so the first pick of day 3. Theo Johnson, right? You know that when Darren Waller officially retires, if you got Theo Johnson at the 404, there might be someone that goes, I'll give you a third.
Absolutely.
So until that happens, there's a world where you just draft him. I know you're not high on Theo Johnson. You're not buying into another Penn State tight end, but I think the price is going to be low enough. Early rookie draft, take him. That is just I can make a quick profit on Theo Johnson.
Yep. All right. What about Eric All?
Eric All, I mean, if you follow Debro, tight end 13, man, and I was just listening to some Bengals breakdown today. I wouldn't be shocked if Tanner McLaughlin is up there ahead of Eric All. The way they're talking, they double dipped at the position because guess what? They don't trust Eric All. He almost retired due to his back injury. He got torn in October. They're going, maybe he'll start the year not on the pup. And I go, well, and he's a 25-year-old rookie. So this idea that he's just the future for a team that's never really featured the tight end, it just feels like people are a little overvaluing him, assuming he's going to be the future starter.
Hey, man, just call it what it's fucking Fantasy Fairy. Beans. Plant that hopium somewhere else. No thanks to Cade Stover, as we've already talked about. Tanner McLaughlin.
No Jared Wiley. Can you sell Jared Wiley? Could you sell people on in 2 years if you're holding him and he's done something in 2 years when Travis is hanging him up?
Hell, I was able to sell Noah Gray in Travis's prime. So yes, I could sell Jared Wiley.
So would you hold Jared Wiley on a best ball team for 2 years?
No, it's not worth the profit for me. He's got to at least profile to be, if I can't sell him, at least he's good enough to be on my team. No, I'm not going to hold him and take 2 zeros to get a third.
How about in a lineup league? If you could just hold him on your bench, would you do it? That's an outside roster construction pick, but could you sell
you that zero is going to be so fat on that roster that you're going to be like, why do I even have no.
You are.
No.
You're going to numerous times over the next 2 years, you're going to see that player and go, man, can I pick up a backup running back instead of that guy? Will anyone take him? And nobody will until it's too late. So yeah,
until it's too late. Anybody else? You talked about Tanner McLaughlin a little bit. All right.
Do you like Dean Bell in New England at all?
It's too much uncertainty right now. I mean,
would you take him over Cade Stover?
I'm not taking any of them. I'm not.
Just move on.
Yeah, dude. Like, I don't want any of these other guys. If we get through camp and Tanner McLaughlin is doing something and you're hearing a little buzz, I can guarantee you that the person that has them rostered, if you wanted that added to a side in a trade throw in, they're not going to fight you over it. Like, I'm not holding that. I don't care about any of those tight ends. Let's move to round 5. Scott, we had quarterback, running back, and wide receiver selected, and we've already talked about all the wide receivers from that position, but we have not discussed the running backs and the remaining quarterbacks. So let's start with the round 5, 6, and 7 quarterbacks. Spencer Rattler to New Orleans, Jordan Travis to the Jets, Joe Milton to the Patriots, Devin Leary to Baltimore, and Michael Pratt to Green Bay. Any interest in any of those guys?
For the degenerate, any quarterbacks on a 2-deep roster construction whores, yes, I love all of them except for Joe Milton. Spencer Rattler costs more, but there's a world where in a year I could see Jordan Travis being the backup with the Jets. I can see Michael Pratt being the backup for the Packers. I can see Devin Leary being the backup for the Ravens. I could see also all three becoming Clayton Tune and Tanner McKee and Sean Clifford, where you go, yeah, they got draft capital, and then in a year the team's going, man, next year the Packers are looking to sign I don't know, Taylor Heineke, right? You know what I mean? And they're going, yeah, we drafted Pratt. We got him into camp. We clearly realize he doesn't have what it takes to be our future backup, and we add a veteran next year. That happens more often than not, but I'll take a shot on that. That's all I really have on those guys. They're backups until they're not, or they're not rosterable until they're
Are you
prioritizing?
Are you prioritizing Rattler at all? A lot of people think Derek Carr, he's one Derek Carr few interceptions away from taking over that job. Come on, man. It's insane.
I'm the biggest Spencer Rattler fan on here, but he went in the 5th round.
Thank you.
He didn't go in the 3rd. He went in the 5th. Now people are going to go, oh, Sam Howell.
Yes.
Oh, Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Like, okay, yeah, the once in a blue moon. Yeah, you're going to hear Sam Howell, Tom Brady, Brock Purdy, right? Those guys became starters or at least got legitimate chances, but that's rare. That takes usually an injury or something very unforeseen to go, yeah, we're going to hand this guy the job. So it's not a bad spot.
Listen, I like Rattler too. Scott,
it's
I
not
like
a
Rattler
bad
too.
spot for the narrative. I could see a world if he wins the backup job and there's a Derek Carr injury, Ray, you could flip Spencer Rattler for a second. But that is what you're hoping for. What you don't do is Derek Carr struggles and then he gets hurt and you go Spencer Rattler's the future starter. That's where I'm not in on. So I'll take some. Just because I like
anybody him. out there thinking that Rattler's going to take over because Derek Carr's throwing picks.
They're not grooming him for 2028.
I'm gonna just leave it at that. Get a load of old Rattler when he goes in there. And I like him, man. He does have the arm talent, but again, he's a 5th rounder, not a 3rd rounder. So, yeah, I'll just say this. In best ball, I'm not holding any of them. I'm not holding Rattler, or they don't fit the criteria of backup quarterback I'm willing to hold and eat zeros on. So I will not have any of them. Last position that we have to talk about, Scott, is the running back position. And I see people saying, I already saw some, I'm Audric Estimate Truth or Numero Uno, so you can go ahead and cue up the beans for that individual. But let's talk about the round 5 and beyond running backs.
Who are you? Let's have a similar exercise here.
Keelan Robinson, no thank you. Let's go ahead and do this right now. X marks the spot. No thank you. 0 exposure whatsoever. You cannot sell me on it. I would draft Tank Bigsby 1,000 times out of 1,000 times over Keelan Robinson. Pass. Hard pass. We don't need to discuss him.
Okay. I have him down as the any running back on a 53 kick returner version. That's it. That is it. So, yes, I agree with you.
Yes.
I feel similar about Tyrone Tracy. There's a lot of people piping him up.
Oh, yeah, Tyrone.
I feel the exact same about him. I don't see those types turning into – people envision when you have these converted receivers that they become this, like, superhuman weapon that is just a receiving weapon. Man, they're going to run him out of the backfield, Ray. They're going to run plays for him. They're going to run him out of the slot. You know the last guy I can remember that was used like that came from this range? You remember J.D. McKissick?
Oh, yeah. J.D. McKissick, C.J. Pro-Size, Dexter McCluster. We've been in this game long enough to see these guys, man.
J.D. came from a college receiver from Arkansas State. He was a college receiver that actually got one of those roles in the NFL. But it's like that was 5 years ago. So I'm not buying into these guys because I bet you if you ask Brian Daboll or Doug Peterson right now, they don't even view Tyrone Tracy or Keelan Robinson as like part of their running back rotation.
Okay.
They're going, do you know what I mean? Like real football-wise, they wouldn't even slot Tyrone Tracy and Eric Gray into the same meeting.
No.
They'd be like,
give me Devin Singletary.
Totally different roles. Exactly.
I am all in on Devin Singletary. Give me all the Devin Singletary over Tyrone Tracy Hopium that I can get. Give me all the Singletary. Isaiah Davis in New York. I mean, what are we even talking about here? I'm with Drew now. I'm slamming that Braylon Allen at the 308 spot. What are we doing, man? He's got to get – no.
You know what this reminds me of? You remember when New England had Damian Harris and Ramondre? Now, none of those guys are pretty tall. but they took Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong, and
Yes.
people go, both of those guys are going to be the backups.
And neither of them were.
And you know what it ended up being? It just didn't make sense that they took either one. That's what this feels like, even though Braylon Allen has the name. I'm kind of interested in Rasheen Ali, right? I've heard a couple people say nice things about him, and I do think that is a team where if you're going to bank on them sticking with a running back multiple years and being like, we'll give him a shot if he earns it. I'm okay with some Rasheen Ali. If I had to pick one on that list besides Estime, that would be the one.
He would be more. I don't know if I'd be willing to roster him in best ball, but I'd have my eye on him. I'd have my eye on him. Lineup, absolutely, especially with the hope that he can make that 53, potentially not to be the backup to Derrick Henry, but probably the backup to Justice Hill, right? He's on the 53. He's out there.
He's the next Justice Hill, where in a year he's
I'm good with Ali.
Field.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like
best ball. Do you even want Audric Estime in best ball?
No, and I like Estime. I wanted Estime in Dallas, but in best ball, not behind Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin, not as a fifth rounder. If Denver drafted Audric Estime in the third round, if they traded up to the top of the fourth round, like, oh, we've got to get this guy, this felt like one where a lot of people thought Estime had the chance to slide in late day 2, early day 3, that he kind of was falling down the board. And, you know, you get a player inside the top 150 that a lot of people thought may have gone higher. I think it's a good insurance policy plan for Javonte Williams because I like Jaleel McLaughlin, but he can't do what Javonte Williams does, and that more so resembles Audric Estime. So,
yeah.
I just, the reason why in best ball it's a no is because I don't think the running back position outside, especially the one that doesn't catch passes, is valuable enough for me to roster and eat the low scoring production or the non-production that I'll get from him. It's just not as valuable for me.
Explain that, because let's say you end up being right and Estime does have some sort of role early on. Maybe it's 5 opportunities a game, right?
Scott, I'd rather those opportunities come in the receiving game, and it's not coming over Jaleel.
Is there even the trade flip value with a guy like that where you go, okay, it was worth my while? That's the issue, is that holding him, let's say he does have a role. What would you be able to sell him to in one of our leagues? A third, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense to gamble because there's no upside in the sale, I don't think.
So then he would be viewed as like how Gus Edwards was viewed in Baltimore, with a name, a little bit of a name.
You know who I think a good comparison to Estime is? Deontay Foreman. He's always been a struggle.
And what do you sell? What do you get for him? A third?
You know what you hope?
Maybe a second?
Hope. No, I don't want to. You know what? You know when I don't roster Deontay Foreman is in best ball, and then you know what I do? When he gets his window of 2 starts, then I buy him. And then end up getting rid of him, and then you buy him again. But I don't want to hold him for 3 years. So I think that's the theory. He's below the range you want to roster in best ball. Easy.
Yeah, he's a red box running back, man. You use him, and then once you're done using him, you take him back to Walmart and you throw him in the machine, right? He's a red box running back. That's all you. I just need to use you. And for those of y'all don't know what red box is, you damn sure don't remember what Blockbuster was. But you rent the thing, you use the thing, you take the thing back. If you didn't rewind the cartridge, they'd charge you for it at Blockbuster. So you had to rewind the damn VHS. And if you didn't do it, my mama will take the belt out because you got charged that $1.50. Just ate that checking account up for that $1.50 overage charge from Blockbuster. All right, we had some running backs drafted in round 6 and none drafted in round 7. Kamani Vidal goes to the Chargers at 181. I've already seen that he is the starter in Los Angeles. We had Jace McClellan, Joar Jordan, and then Dylan Laub go to the Las Vegas Raiders at 208. Take us home, Scott.
Am I crazy to think lineup leagues, the guy I can get for free is Joar Jordan in every league because he's not going to be drafted. Dylan Laub and Kamani Vidal are getting drafted in every league. Best ball, I'm probably not taking those guys. If you had to pick one in best ball, who would you lean, Laub or Vidal? I think I'd go Vidal, but I could sell you on either one. Which one would you pick?
Maybe Laub. At that point,
interesting.
At that point, I'm just chasing the guy that I believe to be put in a more valuable role as the pass catcher. I think there's a world. This is just my opinion. I think there's an easier story to tell people that Dylan Lobb carves out a receiving role in Las Vegas in which the primary running back does not catch the ball, opposed to Kamani Vidal taking over for Gus Edwards and whomever else is there.
J.K. Dobbins.
And I don't even think I'm not really there with Dobbins, but I think the pathway to Lobb at least getting an opportunity to do the one thing that the starter doesn't do, I can, and I saw the Raiders utilize, even with Antonio Pierce, how many times did we see Amir Abdullah on the field or the other running? Like, I saw them take Zamir White off the field and put somebody else on the field to do the one thing that Zamir White does not do. So for me, I get the hopium with Vidal, and I like the player, but if you ask me to choose between one or the other, I'd just take a shot on Lobb.
And Vidal, extensive kick returns in college. Just one of those tiebreakers in a best ball league. If you're trying to find a tiebreaker, we that's going to be, I think, something none of us really know what it's going to look like. How contributory is the kick return yardage going to be? But if you're in, I'm in some leagues, right, where it's
I told you this
1 point for 10 yards for kick returns, and if I can find one of these dudes that puts up 1,200 kick return yards, like, it's cheap points. It's cheap points where I'm already looking for a reason not to have this guy on a roster. Just want to throw that out there. So I would lean Vidal for that reason, just for the kick return stuff. But if that doesn't matter in your league, then
I like the kick return stuff too. I think with the new rules, you will see some creative special team coaches be able to actually set up some stuff in different ways that could spring some of these players. But yeah, either way, they're 6-round running backs, and no, I can tell you this, as I've been pretty much right on LA this entire offseason since Harbaugh got there, I do not believe Kamani Vidal is going to unseat Gus Edwards and be the lead back as we enter the 24 season. Tyler Pello in the building. He's talking about beans, canned beans, refried beans. Yes, all the crusty-ass beans have been planted. Scott, we talked about every single player, fantasy football-wise, that was drafted in this past draft, man. What are your overall thoughts on this class? We're in rookie drafts right now, and I've enjoyed the second round. I think I'm going to enjoy round 3. I don't have a lot of interest in round 4. I just don't have a lot of interest in the round 4 picks. That's nothing groundbreaking. But what have you noticed early on? What are you seeing? How are you feeling as we do some of these drafts?
Yeah, I mean, round 4 in best ball, I thought was going to be a little better than it was. I thought there would be a couple more options than there have been thus far. I've only had 2 full drafts, but that's definitely one where if you can sell other people on the hopium of guys like Johnny Wilson or Malik Washington or Ryan Flournoy, wide receiver 2 on Dallas, or Jacob Cowing, went to San Fran, even though he's buried. Like, I think those are picks I'm willing to get out of for literally future fourths. Yeah, let me take a chance on next year being a little different. Let me take a chance I can add a 4th to get a player preference or bail myself out of an injured player at some point. I actually like this draft for lineup leagues, right? Because people still, in lineup leagues, they still have to draft guys like Devontae Walker, Jacob Cowing, you know what I mean? And I've already moved past those guys going, give me Lobb, Jordan, Vidal, Ali, every running back, even some of the UDFAs. I mean, I don't want them, but there's still a blind spot with this receiver class. People still going 20 deep at receiver in lineup leagues, and 80% of them are going to be roster cloggers. That's just what it's going to end up being. So I like lineup leagues later rounds because I think you could just get free running backs.
Let me ask you this. We are currently on the clock in one of our leagues, and we legitimately, between you and I, have the next 10 picks from 305 to 402. We could do it, but if you want to shop them around and try to move them, we don't have to do it live. But I was just wondering, do you want to rip these off live on the stream with the crowd, like a real rookie draft that we're in?
Yeah, we are at the 305. You and I have 17 of the remaining 20. Legit. I mean, we could go. You have the next 4, then me, then you, then me, then you, then me, then me. So we literally have the next 10 picks. If you want to rip them off, let's do it.
Let's rip them off.
Want to share the board?
I'm gonna share the board. share the board.
There's Dan Forsha in the building. What's up, Dr. Dan?
I'm going to share the board. This is Dr. Dan. This is a league, Scott, that this is the league we did the show on, where we both gutted our rosters after all the stuff that we went through. So you want to just rip these off live? Let's do it. All right, I'm on the clock now.
Highlight what you got so far. Hover over your name, click on it. Let everybody see what you've taken so far.
Here's what I got so far.
You've made some. Okay.
Here's what I got so far. I've got. Hold on. Let me zoom out, and then I gotta do it this way. Here's what I have so far. Read it off, Scott.
So Ray went J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix, got 2 QBs. That's nice in best ball. Blake Corum, Trey Benson, Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd. You said earlier you ripped all 4 of them off in a damn row, basically. Mm-hmm. And then Marvin Harrison, Xavier Worthy, Xavier Legette, Brock Bowers. And you did make a trade, didn't you? Did you make a trade, or was that in the lineup?
That's in the other league. That's in the other league. Yeah, that's not in here. That's not in here. That's not in here. That is not in here. So I'm on the clock right now. My team, I have nobody. Literally, this roster, I have nobody.
Yeah,
I actually
the draft looks good, and then you look at the team and you go, okay.
The team is absolutely gutted. I believe the best player that I had on this team was Puka Nacua, and my best tight end is Donald Parham. So that lets you know that this team is, and Luke Musgrave. So the team is awful. But here we go. I am glad that this player is still. You see him in my queue, Malachi Corley. I am going to take him right now. Malachi Corley is the pick for me. Loading him up. Taking Malachi Corley right there. Who else do I want to take? Let's get out of that.
I'm not going to say anything because I have the picks after you, and I'm going.
No, you don't. You can't say anything. You can't say anything. You cannot say anything. But I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 picks before Scott goes. So I am also, this is best ball. I am going to take Devontae Walker right here. So Tez Walker, let's add him to the squad at the 3-6 spot. Where is,
Drew said Jermaine Burton, but Jermaine Burton went at 301. I would have fought Ray to get him.
Yeah. Burton is gone. Burton was long gone. Here we go. I am going to take, because I just need one. I have none. And I'm going to take him regardless some point in this, so it doesn't even matter. I'm taking Theo Johnson right now just to screw up the ADP. Yeah. Okay. And this is what is this, a 2.0? 1 point? What is it, 1 point?
Yeah, it's 2 PPR. And
it's 2 PPR.
It's best ball start 12, I believe. They're saying show in the chat who's available, Ray.
Oh, they can't see who's available? I'm sorry.
They can see the board, yeah.
Okay, here we go. This is more important than who I'm taking. So I just took Malachi Corley, Devontae Walker, and Theo Johnson, best remaining available. Go ahead, Scott.
You're rebuilding, right? You should go Spencer Rattler, man. It'd be a great pick.
Yeah, it would be a great pick, but I'm going to leave that pick for you. So I'm scrolling down the board. People are saying take Allen. The ADV says Braylon Allen over Bucky Irving. And when you look at the board, this is the one where I was talking about Luke McCaffrey, trying to talk myself into him. I'm just going to take the ADV of Braylon Allen, and you're on the clock. Scott is on the clock now, so let me go to the board. Let me zoom out and go to Scott's pick. All right, Scott's on the board, and y'all can see some of the board.
Yeah, I have taken Bo Nix, Lad McConkey, Jonathon Brooks, and Roman Wilson, and I have a bunch of remaining picks. I have 11 picks remaining in the final 16. So
here goes Scott. Here goes Scott right there. You can see it right there. Bo Nix, Lad McConkey at the back of the first. Then he got Jonathon Brooks at the top of the second, Roman Wilson in the third, and he is now up here at the 3-9 spot. What are you doing, Scott?
Yeah, I will tell you what. I'm going to go back to the ADV conversation. Since you went ADV, I'm going to go ADV as well. Give me right there. I won't have many of these, but I shit on him in this pod.
Who did you take?
I'm going to take him.
You took Javon Baker. Wow. I didn't expect you to take Javon Baker. I fully expected you to take Ray Davis, who I just took. I fully expected you to take Ray Davis.
There's like 4 running backs I could justify taking here. That's the reason I did not take Ray Davis.
Look how many picks I had. Just stupid.
And how gross is that? How's that 401 through 411 going to be?
Dude, I tried to trade these picks. Nobody was like, it's just, know your league, man. Know your league. All right, you're back up, Scott, at the 311, and then I'm up at the 312. Who you taking at 311?
Give me some hopium at running back. Give me Bucky Irving. I'm gonna go Bucky.
I thought you were gonna leave Bucky for me. I thought you were gonna take Estime.
Nope.
You know what I'm gonna do here, Scott, because this is my last pick. This is it. This is like totally it for this is my last pick in this entire draft. And at this point, I'm not worried about need. I'm not worried about production. I'm not worried about any of that. I'm thinking about what's the one player left. If they do anything, I can sell. Or if something bad happens in the situation that I can make a profit on. Or if somehow he has a small role early on, I'll be able to sell. It's Will Shipley. I'm taking Shipley here. I consider Luke McCaffrey, but I think Will Shipley in Philly, if something were to happen, I'll be able to sell Shipley. Now, you got 2 picks in a row coming up. Let me show people the board real quick before you pick. Let me pull up the board. Here's best remaining available for Scott Connor, who literally has 10 of the next 12 picks. Here's what he's looking at. Audric Estime, Brendan Rice, Rattler, McCaffrey, Cowing, etc.
These are easy. Best ball. I think this is a tier break. We talked about it on the show. Like after this, there's not many receivers I'm interested. So I'm going to hit Jalen McMillan and Luke McCaffrey. Come on down.
McCaffrey. All right.
And then we finally get a break. So we moved quick.
We moved quick. I think the 2 people that are up, they're actually live. And if they picked real quick, we would stay and let you rip this off and finish it out. Well, there goes Spencer Rattler. There goes Spencer Rattler off the board. We're not going off. If this pick comes off in the next 30 seconds.
Oh, am I really got to make all these fourths on the air?
Ain't nobody take. Look at that.
Holy shit.
Rip them off, Scott Connor. Round out Destination Chill with a Scott Connor special. Who are you going to take?
Oh, God.
And look at Estime is still there. Brendan Rice. I mean, those are automatics. I mean, you might as well lock those in, right?
Yeah, you got to go.
Lock them in. Come on. Doesn't matter where you take them. You got.
I got to go Dylan Lobb for what we
You got to go
talked
Dylan
about.
Lobb.
Definitely going him. Let's go to the tight ends. Let's see.
Tight ends. You going to take some Jaheim?
Hey, I'm going to take D-Bros tight end 13. We're going to go Eric All.
Oh, okay.
Lock it in. So I got 4 picks left. Can't roster any quarterbacks. Their running backs are.
You cannot.
I'm looking for a running back that I can sell on having a role. Now, this is one I got to check and see. Do we have those kick return yards? Let me check this sleeper league here real quick.
I'm surprised you still haven't drafted Brendan Rice. We can't see who's available. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Nobody. That's who's available. Brendan Rice. Jacob Cowing is a day two.
You're
not going to take Cowing?
I'm not going Jacob Cowing. I'm going Jamari Thrash because I talked about him.
Thrash, yep.
That's a locked-in pick.
You got Thrash.
Let me check the this is legit the real thing you would do if you're on the clock. Let me go back to the settings in one of my 47.
It's no kick return. Dr. Dan confirmed in the
no kick return yards. I did look this morning. You're right. No kick return yards.
No Garindo? Right. Just spike Hopium.
All right, fuck it. I'm taking Brendan Rice just for exactly what you talked about. There's a name, there's a landing spot, so I'll go Brendan Rice.
I'll buy him. You could trade him to me right now. I'll buy him off you right now.
Let's see. 2 PPR. Do I have
Let's pull the board back up.
No, I'm not taking any other tight ends. Someone will
not in this format.
Someone will pick up Cade Stover. Someone will pick up Jaheim Bell, but I'm going to let him go to waivers.
Eric All and Theo Johnson were the only 2 that needed to be picked up. Like, I don't want any of those other tight ends, man. Let somebody else clog their rosters.
Running backs. You know what? Yep, I will have no Garendo, but I could sell myself on Isaac.
You could one big run.
I'll take Garendo. Yes, I'll take Gurendo.
Gurendo.
He's in, and I got one more pick.
Oh,
All
you
right,
got
I'm
one
gonna
more pick.
I'm going to tell the chat who I'm down to. I'm between
Okay, let me pull the board up. Let me pull the board. Cowing.
Jacob Cowing, who I will never draft almost anywhere else for the conversation that we had, but there is the chance I could sell where Ayuk or Debo get traded, Ray. Maybe.
People are saying Malik Washington. A lot of people are saying Malik.
Like Malik. That was the other one.
Josh is saying Josh McCarthy. Our boy Josh says
that's where I'm leaning.
You're going to take Malik?
I am.
And my wife said, like the damn video. If y'all like the video, I'm going to give away a hat. 75 likes. Come on. 400 people watching on YouTube. Like the damn like, and I will give a box away. I still have a few boxes to give away. Y'all's will be shipped out much later, but I'll like it.
I think I can sell myself on Malik.
Let me just ask you something. Before you press it, I'm looking down the board. Where did Frank Gore sign? I'm just asking where he signed. I'm just asking.
I saw it yesterday. Where did he sign? Someone in the chat will get it. Cleveland. You went silent.
Man. And just I want your thought on
Buffalo. Yeah, the chat's right. Buffalo.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Who's Buffalo have? Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, and James Cook.
Mm-hmm.
Still a lot to get through. Here's a theory that's been floated, and I'm just talking you through it. Rumors are that with the selection of Jawar Jordan, potentially Dameon Pierce could be on the move. And I know a lot of people are talking about Dallas wanting to be one of the spots to trade for Pierce. Jordan, number 2 role in Houston, so still a lot of story you got to tell yourself. I think it's between Malik Washington and Jacob Cowing. Washington and Cowing. And honestly, I mean, with Seth Wilson, and is Berrios gone too? He might be kick returner out the gate. Probably not a lot of volume. There's not a lot of volume, to go around early, but how many times does Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle get nicked up during the course of a season? I mean, how many? I'm not wishing it, but it's going to happen as sure as the sun rises in the morning.
Yeah, I was leaning Washington before I gave the list of the guys I was considering. That's the guy I've taken a couple times pre-draft, so I'm going to lean Washington. Somebody probably will take Jacob Cowing, but there's going to be a couple of these guys we're talking about go to waivers, and God knows Ray and I got some spots where we can.
Let me ask you this. Is there any strategy if you're down here 4-11, 4-12 to risk, and you can't do it now because the league mates are in here, but to not take, or do you don't even play that game? Like, what if you were like, I can clear Washington on waivers? Let me try to double up. Let me get Cowing. I know I'll be active. Maybe I can double up and clear him on waivers. Let me get another guy. Or maybe if it weren't Washington, what if it were Jawar Jordan, who's probably not going to get drafted? Is maybe a reason not to take him. He's probably not going to go just based on where he is in sleeper and no one knows who he is, no projected points. Don't draft Jordan, take somebody else, and then try to clear Jordan on waivers.
I already have Malik Washington in 3 leagues, so if I was really, really convicted one way or the other, then I would continue to take him. But if I wasn't, I could also justify going with Jacob Cowing because he's probably going to go earlier than this because someone else has a preference for him versus me and you making all the picks. You know what I mean? Like, right. I probably will not have him in another league unless he doesn't get drafted in a best ball league. Like, if it's a 3-rounder and he's on waivers, that would be the only shot that I would ever pick him up.
All right, so Scott's making a pick. It's Malik. It's Malik. And just, I'll let you pick, but here's the top of the board. I know some people say, could you zoom in on the top?
Here's you ain't missing much by not seeing the board.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's actually. I'll tell you, the picks that feel the worst, Scott, are literally like this back of the first through beginning of the second, mid-second. Like the third round felt good. Like I like the third round. The Corleys, the Sanders. I wish I was able to get Sanders. I took a gamble by taking Marshawn Lloyd, thinking JT would fall to me. That's one I wish I had back. But there it is.
That was unplanned, but Scott made the pick, and it was Malik Washington and Jacob Cowing. This rookie draft is over. Good work. Good work, gents.
That was well timed to get that in at the end.
And look
Good
at that.
stuff.
You had budgeted 3 hours for the show. We've only been on, 90 minutes? Well, no. Oh, shit.
We're at 2.5, but it's all right. We'll be gone.
But
in
it wasn't
3.
3.
5 or less.
Oh man, there it is. Eric Lee, go back up in the chat, man. Go back up in the video. We talked about Bowers. I was very passionate about Brock Bowers. But again, appreciate y'all being here for this edition of this special edition, this 2.5 hour, not 90-minute edition of Destination Chill, where we went through every single fantasy relevant player. We had to split it up into 2 pieces, but what I'm going to do as soon as this is over, I'm going to combine the videos, and then we'll release the video on the regular channel so the whole thing will be there. And tonight at 9 p.m., the premiere of my early look at the 2025 class will drop on the channel. So we're going to premiere that on the channel, early look at the 2025 class. Make sure you stick around for that. Dynasty and Chill. Tomorrow, wake up. We announce the grand prize winners from the draft stream. And if you're new, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, like, comment below, and make sure y'all subscribe to my new show, Hot Takes and Trending Topics, everywhere podcasts are found. We're doing our first giveaway for the show tomorrow morning on Wake Up as well. Scott, had a good one, man. I hope everybody out there enjoys drafting. And if you want advice from Scott, myself, and others, patreon.com/allgas or go to destinationdevi.com. Sign up. Best fantasy space on the planet, man. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Scott, there were 2 super chats. I do great outros and always fucking forget. So let's do these real quick. It just completely messed up the flow. But we thank you, Creed Braden, for the super chat. Just says, great weekend, fellas. Super from first stream. Come over. What's up? Basically, are they going to come over? I need to find them. But yes, we will get those over and we will get those addressed. And then Matt says, thank you guys for a great draft weekend. One question here, Scott. 1 QB, non-tight end premium, start 8, rebuilding, and have picks 2, 3, 7, and 9. Trade 7 and 9 for 4, or just stand put. Start 8, Scott. We want the best players, right?
I mean, that's a dream because now you can take either Bowers or Jonathon Brooks, and you get out with Neighbors, Odunze, and one of those, and do not worry about who you're fishing for at 7 and 9. Yep.
Exactly.
Start 8. Hell yeah, do it.
Do it. Hammers only. All right. See y'all in the morning. Appreciate you. Love y'all. We out.